Down the field, Hollywood!
Let me think about that one.
77 yards! Whoa! Who is this kid?
Lester.
Guys, today's, I know, going to be a day looking back on your life that you will remember a podcast for the rest of your life, because this person's life, the 22 years that he's spent on this earth and the things that he's overcome, the people that he's inspired, the team that he roots for. I can't say enough things about Nick Santonastasso and the life that he's lived up until this point, the people that he's inspired. I'm 35 years old, and I look back on my life, and if God took away my ability to live another day, I would be so thankful for what I've done up until this point, but I haven't done 1/10 of what the guy sitting next to me has done in his 22 years of life. And I'm not just talking about achievements and accolades and trophies. I'm talking about lives absolutely changed. And man, I cannot tell you how thankful I am that you're sitting here next to me, and the story that I know that you're going to deliver today and the things that you're going to do moving forward in your life. Like, I feel like the greatest gift that I can ever give you is just to connect you with more people like me that just want to see you win and want your story to be heard, because you really are, man. You are a special, special person. And I don't even know where to start this interview. And I was telling Nick, earlier today, I've played in front of 72 million people. I've won Super Bowls, and I've been on the biggest stage. And I'm more nervous for this interview because I know how much change that this can have in the world. So much more change than any other opportunity that I've had. And the awesome thing about it is all I need to do is take the hands off the steering wheel and let your story be told. So
I'm grateful for the opportunity, bro. Thank you for having me, man. This is
so
full
thankful.
circle, me being a Giants fan too.
I know. And you know what, the opportunity presented itself. We're at the Summit of Greatness. We're in Columbus, Ohio. And I wasn't planning on doing a podcast with Nick. And, I've known all about Nick for years and years and years, from all different types of, from the vines that you've made. I mean, we're going to get into his story and all the different things that he's done. And at 22 years old, like, how amazing. I look back on where I was at 22 years old. Dude, you got it all together.
Trying my best.
It all together, man. I am so inspired. So, like, take me back. Let's tell the story. Take me back to when your mother was pregnant. I've listened to your story.
Yeah.
I want to recreate that.
Okay.
For my tribe,
sure.
so they can know where you started, the things that you've been through. And this is the point of the interview. I'm taking my hand off the wheel, and I want you to just be yourself and tell your story.
Got it. And cut me off whenever you want to, like,
no,
express a point.
That's why I'm nervous
going.
that I don't want to ruin this.
No,
man,
you're good,
because,
man.
Dude, you're beautiful inside and out, and your story is even more beautiful.
Thank you.
Dude, tell it.
Yeah, so 22, I was born on May 20th, 1996, and so I am the baby of the family. I have 3 other siblings, and so I have 1 brother and 2 sisters. And so it was my mom's last child. The 4th child, and so they went in for an ultrasound, a scheduled ultrasound. Everything was fine. They went in for another ultrasound. Everything was fine. And then my mom went in for a late ultrasound. And so, they bring my parents into this room, and they pull up the baby on the screen, and the people start looking at, the doctors start looking at the screen with this puzzled face. And my parents were like, what's going on? What's good? And they said, well, Mr. and Mrs. Santonastasso, by the way, you said my name perfectly. And so they said, Mr. and Mrs. Santonastasso, something's wrong. And they said, well, from the looks of it, it doesn't look like your baby's limbs are being fully developed. It looks like he's missing his legs and his one arm. He might have cleft palate. They started, listing a bunch of these things. And so in that moment, because I asked my parents, I was like, how do you deal with this, right? And in that moment, they looked at each other and said, well, you can't control that. This is life, and we're going to see where life takes this kid. We're going to see, what's going to happen. And they promised that they were going to raise me. If I survived, they were going to raise me just like the other kids. And so what the doctors did, they classified me with hand-heart syndrome. And what that is a super rare genetic disorder that either leaves the babies with undeveloped limbs or undeveloped organs. And so at the time of my birth in 1996, that was the 12th baby in medical history that they've ever seen this happen to. They don't know why. And out of the 12, 8 of them at the time, out of the 12, 8 of them have passed away due to undeveloped organs. And so babies are born and they can't breathe on their own or they can't eat on their own. They're hooked up to all these machines and, they later on pass away. And so they told my parents, your baby's got about a 30% chance to live. And I always tell people we have the same choice that my parents have in life. And that's you can focus on the negative, which will never serve you, or you can focus on the positive and empower you, right? Because that's all you can do at any given moment is focus on the positive. And so they were like, well, we're going to focus on that 30% chance. We're going to, that's all we're going to focus on. But there was, some mental struggles with my mom, she talked to me about it. She was crying and just upset and be like, oh my, I want my kid to survive. And of course, And so I was born, and they immediately did tests on my organs, and they come back and say, your son's organs are 100% healthy. The only thing that was affected were his limbs, and a sense of, every time I think about that, every time I talk about it, it's just overwhelmed with gratitude, right? Because the chances of being human are really slim. It's wild that we're here, and then the fact that I beat this 30% chance to live, and the only thing that was affected were my limbs, I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude, and that's one of the main pillars that I talk about is living in a state of gratitude literally change your life. And I think if people once a day just thought about the fact that how rare it is to be a human, that all their little problems would kind of diminish, and they would just be better. They'd be better. They wouldn't care about things as much as they should, the things that they can't control. And so, I'm grateful for the way my parents raised me. They're the superheroes. I'm not. They instilled this into me. And so from the earliest of ages, my parents sat me down and were like, Nick, the world's not going to stop for you. The world's not going to stop for you because you're born like this. Things are going to be hard. They're going to take you so much of your time. But this is it. This is it. And you just got to roll with it. And, we don't want you feeling sorry for yourself. And it's super wild the way my parents raised me because I don't know if many parents would raise, kids like that. And so they put trials and tribulations and challenges in front of me at an early age. And what I mean by that, in the most polite way, my parents would put my clothes in front of me and say, all right, Nick, you got to figure it out. Or, they put me in a high chair with a spoon and some Cheerios and say, all right, Nick, figure it out. And, with that, I'd flick the spoon off and I'd lick my finger and eat Cheerios that way because it was much more efficient. And so, but I tell people by my parents putting these trials, these tribulations, these challenges in front of me at an early age, it got my mindset not in the rhythm of it's not can't, but it's how, which is we'll get back to that. That's the whole approach. That's all life. That's what everyone. It's not can't, but how. That's the approach we all need to take in life. But listen, it got me in the rhythm of things aren't going to be easy. Things aren't going to be easy. Everything that I tried, I failed at. I didn't just get things all the time, trying to get on a chair, I fell, and I think that's super important. And I actually had an advantage by my parents raising me that way is because, that is a muscle. Everything in life, it's like training. It's a muscle. And, by me realizing that, okay, well, how am I going to run through this wall? How am I going to break through this barrier? That's a muscle. So every time something came up, I never got flustered. I just knew things were going to be hard. And I think that's one of my passions is trying to open up parents and kind of shifting their perspective and their mindset and how they can instill this stuff into their kids because it's a very weird time in the world. This is a very bad time in the world with the kids growing up the way they are. And so it was a muscle. I knew everything that I was going to attempt at was going to be hard. And that gave me an advantage because I would just expected it, And nowadays, when things are hard, people are like, I'm done. I'm done. This is too hard for me. I'm done. And so I had an advantage. I think I had an advantage by the way my parents raised me and made me build that muscle. And so they put those challenges in front of me and that was my mindset. And so before middle school, I didn't realize this whole package I had going on. I was just, a happy kid. I had a great school system. I had a great, support system. But the one thing I realized, which I don't really talk about, the one thing I realized is I look back into a Christmas picture, like a school picture with all the class, and we all had Santa hats on. And so I'm looking at everyone, and then here's me with my hands stuffed up in my hat, like this. I took the picture like this. I didn't like the way my hand looked. And so I guess even at that early age, which I don't even remember, but I had some self-consciousness about the way my hand looked. And I had that carried on for the rest of my life. Not now, I'm good. But that was
You're
a
not
thing.
good, dude. You are freaking great.
Thank you. Thank you. But I guess that I look back and I had some sort of, self-consciousness and I realized, I was different. But I got into middle school, and you know, I always say, I think we can all agree, middle school and high school are probably the most judgmental times of our lives. If you have kids, that's like the hard time, and that's what I've realized. And so I got into middle school, and I realized all of this. I realized the kids, you know, I never got bullied. I want to make that clear. I never got bullied because I had always had big friends, big, you know, bad friends. And
Hey, you got another one sitting right next to you, man.
Thank you, brother. And but you know, there's always teasing. They're kids, right? And there's always teasing and name calling. So I realized, you know, the kids teasing, some teasing, and you know, I've heard everything. I've heard everything, like crippled. You know, you're a freak. Like your dad should kill himself. Like how could he give birth to you? Like you
That's
name
hurtful,
it. You
man.
name it. I heard it. And also like, although I wasn't any slower mentally, but because I was getting pushed in a wheelchair and I had an aide sitting in the you know, just watching over me, that, you know, people were like, oh, Nick's slow, you know. And you know, I felt that. I felt all that. And so I immediately felt not normal, like extremely not. Like
How old were you when you realized, like, I'm different than other people? Like, can you remember, like, a specific age where it, like, clicked with you, I'm different than everyone else?
I think it was no, actually, you made me spark another moment that I don't talk about. And I was going to talk about it. I was in elementary school.
How old were you?
To be honest, I have no idea. It's probably 3rd grade, 4th grade, and I still know this kid's name. And I still remember. You know when things happen and you just remember people, you remember the way they made you feel.
Right.
We were in school, we were out on a recess, and we were playing kickball. And so I would either like whack the ball with my hand to kick it, or I'd get like a coach to kick it, or a teammate to kick it, right? And so, you know, we're a bunch of kids, and I still remember this kid's name is crazy. And so we're playing kickball, and I can run fast, like without legs. Like I can run pretty fast. I know if you see me move.
When you met E.T., the hip hop preacher, earlier, you know, I'm like pushing your wheelchair over there, and I was expecting E.T. to come up to you, and E.T. was at this point probably
don't know what to do too, right?
15 feet away, right?
Yeah.
And so he saw you, and I was like, hey, E.T., I'd like you to, and like before I said I'd like you to meet, you literally flew out of your chair and got over to him, and literally a flash, and I'm like, man, I got to know more about this guy. You know what I mean? Like, you inspire me on so many different levels, and like it's almost kind of like an uncomfortable space for me to be in, because I don't exactly know, like, I don't want to say your limitations, but I don't know how to handle it. And
You only know what you know.
Right. And dude, you are freaking accomplished and capable, and I'm blown away.
Thank you.
I mean that so
But like
much.
real quick, like that strategy, does that make more of an impact than me just staying in my chair?
Oh my God,
Exactly,
you kidding me?
right?
I'll never
That's a first
forget
impression.
that.
And you
I'll
know, so I'm
never
jumping
forget
out. I'm
that.
like, yo, what up? Like, I'll come to you. Like,
And
don't
dude,
come to
you
me.
should have seen how big E.T.'s eyes were. He was like, he was inspired like that. Before you opened your mouth and put your hand out to shake his hand, he was inspired.
Because you only know what you know. And I knew he
You're
didn't know me.
incredible,
So I was
man.
like, I'm going to jump out and like totally
were-
take him from storm.
You were incredible.
And so,
So
yeah, but
take me back. We're playing kickball.
yeah, we're playing kickball. And so I was up and I had someone kick for me. And they probably hit a good kick, you know, give me some extra time. But I'm running around these bases, and I ran home run. I slid into home. And this kid, which I'm not going to mention his name, I know who you are. I know what you do.
who you
I know
are.
what you do for a living now too. And he looked at I think he was the pitcher, and he looked at the catcher and said, "How are you going to let a crippled score on you?"
Oh my God.
Right in front of me. Right in front of me, and I'm a kid. Like, I'm a pure kid, man. Like, how do I handle that? And so even now, like, I don't talk about and get a little emotional, but like,
This is the spot to do it.
I was pissed off, you know, like how you gonna call me? Like, I just want to get treated like a normal kid, you know, like I'm running around the bases like faster than other kids, like how, like, and so he said, how are you gonna let a cripple score on you? And I never forgot that. And I use it as motivation because, like I said, everything, whether it's hate, whether it's people calling me names, you have the option. You can let it elevate you, or you let it sink you. And I chose everything to elevate me because, like I said, focusing on the negative doesn't do anything. It'll never empower you. And so I remember that, and it's funny because that kid never understood why I didn't mess with him, even when we were older, even when the fame came around, and like, you know, kids start, I'm like, dude, I'm good, like I don't mess with you, you know, and never knew why. And so yeah, I maybe that was a moment where I was like, man, like why, you know, like in
So
that
it was
victim
kickball.
mentality of like, okay, why does he have to call me that? why do I have to get looked at different, you know? And so that was a little taste before middle school. And so that was in elementary school. So yeah, I guess I did realize I was different before then. And then so I got into middle school, and this was just like I said, even a big slap in the face. And like I said, I heard all the names, you know, and I never got bullied, you know, because kids watching this, you know, kids in high school, like, dude, you had a great career in middle school and high school. Yeah, but there's always teasing, right? And so I realized all this stuff, and that was my super low point. You know, middle school going into high school, I was an out of shape kid. I thought confidence was like just you were born with it. I thought it was just something that like in your DNA. I didn't know it was a skill. And we could talk about how confidence is a skill and you build it, but I thought you were either born with confidence or you didn't have it. And the one thing I even talk about that I don't talk about, I'll drop some things that I don't talk about, and agree because we're dudes, and it's the same way for girls. But in middle school and high school, is a big focus on girls.
For sure.
And for the girls,
even
and the
more
girls,
when you're older.
and the girls, it's a big focus for guys. You know, you want to impress the girls, and
Sure.
so I think one of the biggest triggers for me with suicidal thoughts was girls and the way they treated me, and maybe the way they did not treat me how I wanted. And so like you crave that energy, you crave female energy. You know, we're humans, we love to connect.
The acceptance.
Yeah,
You know? That's what it is. I mean, I remember when I was a kid. I mean, you know, it's like I feel ashamed to compare my childhood to your childhood.
No, dude,
like,
we all go through stuff.
But at the same time, like the emotions are exactly the same. I was 108 pounds when I was a freshman in high school. I remember moving to my hometown when I was in 7th grade and being like the new kid. And, you know, I have a very similar story to yours where I was the new kid and I didn't really grow up with much money. You know, my parents did an amazing job of making sure that I had enough, but I didn't have the same clothes that other people had. I was probably 90 pounds in 7th grade when I moved, and I realized that, you know, like I thought I needed those things in order to gain acceptance. And so that's why being able to have an opportunity to spend time with somebody like you, that you just decided that you were enough without really gaining the acceptance, but the struggles are the exact same.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's why I'm so inspired, like as your friend and as like a man that you used to go to my football games, you know, as a New York Giant, and to know that you were, and I feel terrible saying this, that you were a fan of me. Like, I'm a bigger fan of you than you
mutual,
will
bro.
ever be of any New York Giant
Thank you.
player, because it's not of what you've accomplished, it's what you've overcome that truly makes somebody an inspiration. And you are that for every sense of the word.
Thank you.
It's absolutely incredible, man.
Thank you. Yeah, and real quick, like you said, you don't want to compare, you know, your childhood to mine, but like everyone out there, like, it's all like, don't think I'm above here because I've been through, you know, a lot. Like, you know, don't feel discomfort. Like, you know, we all go through the same things, and so don't like put any, like, don't think your story is not like cool or the things that you went through are less than someone else. You know, we all go through stuff.
Because I mean, and that's one thing that I've learned, because I've been on an emotional and spiritual journey in 2018, and that's what really inspired me to start this podcast. And it's not to have super famous people on here; it's to have people on here that have a story to tell that will impact other people. This is the first project that I've ever worked on in my life that's not about money, that's not about building my brand, that's not about doing this to get to X or Y. This is doing this for doing this. And I'm so fortunate that I have such just a crazy tribe of supporters, and they've gotten behind this so much that this has become, you know, one of the biggest podcasts in the self-help category. And that's what I want to do. I want people to be able to help themselves by consuming the content of the stories that come on this podcast. And honestly, like, I know that this is going to be our most popular podcast that we've ever had, because you're the most inspirational person that I've ever met.
Thanks, man.
And so that's why this story of overcoming, you know, the victim mentality to get to the victor. And you've got a book coming out in 2 days, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I want to get through some things that I know about you. That our listeners and our viewers on YouTube and on iTunes just, they need to be able to know more about you. So take us into high school.
So, you know, like I said, where we ended off is like girls. And I want to talk about this because it's so relatable, right? And I'm going to talk about it more. I'm going to make an oath to talk about it more. But just like, I wanted that love. Like I wanted a girlfriend, I wanted that stuff, and just like girls didn't mess with me. And I kind of felt like, right, like that puts you in a situation where you feel so abnormal and so I felt disgusting. It got to the point where I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to go in public. I didn't want to look into a mirror. I would be in the car and I see kids riding their bike. I'm like, why can't I ride a bike? Like, I looked at my dad. I'm like, I want to do that. And my parents were so amazing. My dad went in and found a bike that had 3 wheels that I could operate with my arm. He's like, here, son, got you a bike. I'm like, you're the man, Dad. But like, I was just like, why can't I be normal, right? And so I got into high school, and my older brother, who's about 6 years older than me, he wrestled. I'm from New Jersey, so wrestling's a big deal. Like, we're about it. It's like football in some places, right? It's like a religion. And so football, I meant wrestling. I got there. My brother was a stud wrestler. I always went to his matches, and I looked up to these guys. Like, thought they were the most wild athlete. Come on, man.
I can't help.
And so I got into my freshman year, and my best friend Dan, we're still best friends to this day. I talked to him last night. Don't ask me why. His whole life he wrestled, but he decided to be a bowler. And so his freshman year, he's like, bro, he's like, and the one thing I want to talk about real quick before I get into that is because in my family, I was the glue. I was that positive guy everyone came to. Still to this day, my sister will call me, or my mom will call me, my dad will call me if they're going through some stuff, right? And in school, in public, like people were just like, Nick, you're so motivational, like, and so I felt like I had a duty. And so even in that low point, I never wanted to affect other people with that negative mentality, so I put on a mask and just smile through that stuff, because I knew that like by me simply smiling in public could change someone's life, or by me simply smiling in school, kids would be like, man, well, this kid's happy, like why am I not happy? I just knew that it would be contagious if I was negative. And so my freshman year, I need to find something that's going to dig me out of this hole. And the one thing, I'm going to be harsh with this, but the one thing you guys need to realize is no one's coming to save you but you. The only person that's going to dig you out of your hole is you. The only person that is going to make a drastic change in your life, whether that's physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, is you. Like, you have to do it for you. You have to be your biggest cheerleader. And so Dan was like, dude, you could bowl. He's like, all you got to do is push the ball down the lane. You get to eat cheese fries when you come back. He's like, you got this. I'm like, bro, I love food. I'm in. I'm Italian.
Right.
And so, I tried out for bowling, and even in the bowling, I felt like an outcast because I joined late, and they gave me like an older, like crappier uniform. And I always say, you have your JV and your varsity. And so our varsity were studs, and our JV bowling team was undefeated until I joined the team. And so I gave them their first loss, and they're probably low-key, mad, but it's fine. Sorry, guys. And so I realized that I needed something more. I needed something pushing me more physically and mentally. And so sophomore year, all my best friends were stud wrestlers. And, I always hanged out with them, but like, they go to practice, and then I wouldn't hang out, like I wouldn't be with them at practice, and they go to matches. And so like, that's the time I didn't get to spend with them. And friends were everything. I had the great set of dudes, and that helped. You just always having guys that love on you, but also guys that like, yo, get up, like don't be a little girl.
So your friends in high school, and
we're amazing.
I'm getting emotional in here. I've shed a couple of tears, but man, your story is really powerful. Your friends, were they kind of very similar to your parents, where it was kind of like, hey, this is what needs to happen, sink or swim, like we'll pick you up when you fall down? Or were they a little bit more gentle with making you a part of the crew?
Yeah, so
because it sounds like your parents were like, hey, listen, life is not going to be easy. Teach yourself how to feed yourself.
Yeah. I mean,
how did your friends approach it?
My friends were amazing. Even to this day, like and I challenge myself with a lot of things. And real quick, stupid, funny example, like a phone charger, right? I know that if I grab the phone charger with both limbs, I can plug it in within 5 seconds. But I'll sit there with one finger, and I'll be like, trying to like push it in one finger, just challenge myself. But like my friends, like even Justin, like they'll see me do something, and they'll be like, you need help? And I'm like, no, like let me try it. And then like I'll try it to the point where I'm like, all right, like just I know it's more efficient if you just do this for me, or you just pick me up. And so
I experienced that with you the day we met, which was yesterday, and you were punching your number into my phone, and I wasn't holding the phone, and I was actually explaining it to my video crew here, Nico and Guy, and you typed your name into my phone and your number into my phone faster than with one finger, faster than I could have done it. And I mean this, faster than I could have done it with 10 fingers or 8 fingers and 2 thumbs. And it was at that point I'm like, this guy is the real deal. Like insanely capable. And it, I know I keep saying it, but it blows my mind how inspiring that you are. Like how capable that you've become, sans the capabilities or the limitations that you have, because these are not imposed limitations. These are physical limitations, but you have been able to transcend them with your mindset. Like as fun as it is for me to like you and I to admire bodybuilders or professional athletes that have been able to achieve incredible, mind-blowing things with their body, your mindset and your ability to never quit is so much more inspiring than anything anybody else able-bodied people will ever do, because I feel like I can't call you disabled because you've been able to transcend so many things.
Thank you.
Without having nearly as much of the God-given abilities that we have. So it's
I appreciate
wild,
that,
man.
bro. It's a muscle. This is your superpower. When people realize this is your superpower, and like the biggest disability you can have is a bad mindset.
And that's what we connected on when we were talking in the field at the Summit of Greatness, and we're sitting there talking, and your mindset. I've always prided myself on like discipline and sacrifice and persistence, but I understand now that there's levels to it.
I appreciate
what I
that.
mean?
Yeah. And so I did the bowling thing, and then I was like, all right, I need something more. I need something to push me more. And so my sophomore year, Dan did the right thing and went back to being a wrestler. No offense to bowlers. I like bowling. But so all my best friends were wrestlers, stud wrestlers. And so they were like, Nick, you always try new things. We're gonna put another challenge in front of you. Why don't you try wrestling? And even in middle school, like, the coaches knew me from my brother, like, yo, when are you getting on the mat, Nick? When are you getting on the mat, Nick? Like, and then I go into freshman year, and the same coach came up from the middle. When are you getting on the mat, Nick? And I'm like, I can't. My arm. And so what I mean by that is, this limb, which we call the potato now, this limb was 5 inches longer than it is now. My bone was growing faster than my skin.
So it was still growing, like as
even now it's still growing. Yeah,
really?
Yeah, because your bones grow to like, what are you, like 24?
Something that you're gonna have to address later on?
It depends. In the next couple, I think our bones stop growing at like 20. I think guys are longer. I think it's like 23, 24. So we'll see. But my bone was growing faster than my skin, so it was like your finger, but like super sensitive, like very like not much skin there, and I couldn't really touch it.
There's a ton of nerves in our finger. That's our tactile
responses.
Yeah. So you had the same thing. On the end of your potato.
And the real quick, I'm gonna add another thing that I don't ever talk about. I used to play a full set of drums. My first grade, I'm gonna take this back real quick. I played a full set of drums, an electric drum set. And so Mr. Patron, if you're out there, I love you. Mr. Patron, this guy came up to me and was like, hey, I want to just like mess with you and maybe you could play the drums. And so I started on a regular snare, but what they do is they would ace bandage the sticks to my limbs. And so with the electric drum set, I have quads on both sides, not much, but I have quads. So I would sit on the hi-hat pedal and I would sit on the bass pedal. And like this, I'd play a full set of drums, and I got so good that they had to move me to the middle school band when I was in elementary school. I never talked about it on a podcast, so that's some good stuff. I'm gonna get back in the drums too, by the way. But through like ace bandaging it, like my arm would always get infected. Like if it got cut, like it was so raw that like it would just get infected, and it's just bad situation. And so they were like, Nick, try wrestling. I was like, I can't my arm. And so I started marinating on this thought, and I was like, man, if I could be labeled as an athlete, if I could be labeled as a wrestler, if I could walk, roll through the school with my buddies, the wrestlers, if I could go to the practices, if I could run out with the team, if I could just be on the mat, that would instill confidence in me, because maybe I never thought I would be able to be an athlete, as a young kid. And so I was like, I want to become a wrestler. This has the ability to pivot me. And so I came home one day. I was a 16-year-old kid, and I waited for both my parents to come home. And like we said throughout this interview, my parents supported me in everything and anything. My mom got home a little later, so I waited for both my parents to come home, sat them down, and said, listen, guys, like, I want to be a wrestler. Like, I want to be a wrestler. And my mom was like, Nick, like, your arm, buddy. Like, we've had a lot of problems with your arm. Like, look at it, And she's like, wrestling's the most physical sport. You go out there, you're going to hit your arm. Something's bad's going to happen. And so I said, can we cut it off?
Wait, slow down. Say it again, because I want to make sure. Because people glorify Hall of Famers like Ronnie Lott for cutting his finger off to play a game. And you're 17, 16?
I was 16.
16 years old, and you look at your mom and you tell her, or ask her, can we cut my arm off?
Limb, yeah, 5 inches.
Can we cut my limb off so I can wrestle? And it wasn't like you had the skill of wrestling. You've never wrestled
Never
before.
wrestled.
So
Never knew if I was going to make the team.
You wanted to essentially dismember yourself just to be able to have an opportunity to try something.
And pivot myself out of this hole.
And pivot yourself out of this hole. So think about that for a minute. When you're watching this right now, he was willing to cut off his arm, not figuratively, literally, because I've said, man, I'd cut my arm off to be able to do that. But we both know that I wouldn't have done that. You brought that up to your mom and then went through it just to be able to get an opportunity to try something. So people that are watching this, if you want to do something, match his intensity and his commitment to try. Because there was no guarantee if you did that you would be good at it.
Oh, yeah.
You would be successful. It was just you were willing to cut a limb off just to have an opportunity to try something.
And it's like, what are you willing to do?
So what does your mom say to you? What does your mom say? Your mom says, you want to cut your arm off?
Yeah, they were like, what? And they're like, first off, Nick, it's amputation. You're so harsh with your terms. Like, you know, like, let's use better wording. I'm like, all right. I'm like, can we amputate my arm? And the funny thing is, I mean, not funny, but like the cool thing is I never told my parents how low I was. I never told them that I was in this hole. And it's funny because they were at an event of mine a couple months ago, and I came off the stage and like, Nick, I didn't know you were. I never knew you were struggling. I was like, why would I do that to you guys? Like, I don't want to put the family through that. You know, like, I am the lighthouse. Like, I know what I am. I'm not going to come home and even as a kid, I just didn't want to put my problems on, you know, like, I just didn't want to do that. And so I said, yeah, like, can we do something about it? And that's what I tell people, like, whatever we're focusing our energy on, you need to give it all. Like, if you, especially if you hold yourself high, like, if you know you deserve to be great, which we all deserve to do great things, like, you got to do things all the way, like 110% or nothing. And so, like, Nick, is this something that you really want to do? I said, yeah, I want to wrestle. Like, I want to wrestle. And so they're like, all right. And so we found a doctor. And so my sophomore year, we scheduled the amputation. And so what they did was they lasered 5 inches of my bone off, which I didn't even know that they could do. That's pretty cool. And so they lasered 5 inches off, and they did a skin graft. So they pull extra skin from up here and pull it over my bone. And I remember telling the doctor, I'm like, Doc, when I wake up, I better have some cushion on this. I better be able to beat someone over the head with this thing, or like, this is all a waste of time. Like, you know, like, this needs to be good. And
so you weren't concerned with the length of what they were going to keep. You were concerned with.
Oh, we went like, through where I was like
how battle tested is this thing going to be? Like, how tough is this?
Oh yeah, I was like, yo, make sure like I can beat the thing up. Like, it needs to be like on point. And so I came out of surgery. You know, it was a weird feeling. I had like the ghost limb sensation. Like, I felt still like my arm was there and it wasn't. And so I had a bunch of stitches in my arm, super swollen, and it felt like my arm was getting pulled off. I don't know. It was the weirdest feeling. And so I'm all pumped up. I go back to school. I always say I was the happiest kid that just cut his arm off. I go back to school, and people are like, dude, like, what'd you do? I'm like, I cut my arm off.
They already have to be thinking that you're insane because
whatever, I mean, you know, yeah, for sure.
You're bowling and you're doing all these things that like society says you can't do, but not only are you doing them, you're performing them in excellence for no other reason than you know you can versus believing that you can't. Yeah. Self-belief is something that keeps rising up for me, and you like, where does that come from?
Yeah.
The self-belief.
Are you asking?
Yeah.
Where does the self-belief come from?
Like, where did it generate from you? Because you've already described to you that you haven't shared so many things with your parents because you didn't want to put that on them. Like, where was the outlet to be able to like share something? Like, was it did you have a friend that you could talk to? A brother?
To be honest, okay. So when I love my siblings too for this, but like now that I think about it, I remember like, and my siblings would push me. They would be like, Nick, try this or try that. And like, if I ever had any little self-doubt, they'd be like, enough, really? Nick. Like, let's be real. Like, okay. Like, they wouldn't let me have excuses.
So it's like no excuses.
Yeah. And I'm like, you're right, like, yeah, and so.
Were they empathetic to what you were dealing with and the adversities that you had?
Let me share a story now. This is a
Please.
wild story. I never told this.
Please.
One time, my dad told me. One time, I've never told this story. This is gonna be cool. My siblings were giving me some crap. They were teasing me, and maybe for not being able to do something. And my dad said, "Oh, you want to tease Nick? All right, we're gonna do something." My dad made all my siblings get on their knees. He tied one arm behind their back, all of them, and made them have one finger and said, "All right, do what Nick does." And let them sit there and try to do what I was doing. And they couldn't. Boom, perspective shift.
Right.
And they never like, hated, like, and they never like pushed me like that
And,
again.
Like, how do you, and that's what I'm like, that's why.
That's a cool story. I like that you got me to say that.
Yeah, as a parent, like I'm constantly thinking about how your parents like had the wisdom and had the confidence that how they were parenting you and supporting you and loving you and being empathetic to your situation and understanding, but also helping to support you to get the most out of what you had and actually transcending what you thought you could do. And still, you're 22 years old, and we're going to get to more of the things that you've done, but you're still pushing. Like I have so much respect for your parents. I cannot wait to meet them.
They're wild.
Because
yeah.
This story is, as gnarly as this story is, I can't imagine what your parents went through in order to be able to support how freaking crazy you are. You are gnarly crazy.
Thank
to
you.
Like the nth degrees. As inspiring as you are, you're equally that crazy. I mean, I think it was Steve Jobs that said it's the crazy ones that change the world, because you don't stay in your lane at all.
Oh no.
I feel like you don't have there's trailblazers, and then there's you.
Thanks.
You know what I mean?
That's pretty cool.
You've got your thing. You've got your 4x4 in overdrive, and I don't think it's ever going to stop.
Thanks. Yeah, dude.
Your parents are amazing, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
can't
you're
wait.
amazing.
No,
but
they're
the
amazing.
helplessness of having, like, not being able to do it for you, because they could have.
Oh yeah.
But they knew
They could have put me in a
guy,
bubble.
This guy is crazy, and he's not going to let me do this for him.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. All right, so then take me. So he tied their arm behind their back, allowed them to use one finger and put them on their knees.
And I was like, all right, like try the things that Nick does, and they couldn't. And it was, they were crying and just total perspective shift. And then from there, they always supported me and knew that meter of like, we're gonna push him, but if he needs help, like we're always there. Like we're always there to back you up. And so I don't even know where that was going, but I wanted to share that story.
It doesn't matter where it was going, because that was such a powerful shift for me as a parent, like to how to parent different kids. Because I know there's a lot of men and women out there and entrepreneurs that are listening to this out here that can be applied to so many different facets of life, just for a perspective shift to understand. If you don't know what somebody's going through, there's a way for you to put yourself in their situation.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful exercise that your parents put your siblings through. And the direction that we were going with that was
wrestling. I got back to school.
Yeah, who did you have? Did you have somebody to speak to? Because you just mentioned you didn't really dump that on your parents. Who did you speak to in order to have that outlet, that spiritual, emotional outlet, to be able to deal with what you were dealing with? Because there's no manual for parenting a freaking
unicorn.
Crazy son of a gun like you.
Unicorn.
You are, man. There's lions, there's tigers,
and there's unicorns.
and bears, and then there's unicorns.
Thank you. This is, I love how you're asking me these questions, because now I'm going to say something. Might not believe it. That's fine. I'm going to start recording it. One of my outlets was video games, believe it or not. So Xbox, I would put a table here in front of my TV with a pillow.
Okay.
And so with an Xbox controller, you have your A, Y, you have your A, X, Y, and B. You have your buttons here, and I'd use my chin. I'd use my chin to use the right analog stick. Right bumper and right trigger, I'd use the potato. Left analog stick, and if I push the controller into the pillow, it hit the left trigger. I played competitively. I was one of the best players in the world for Gears of War, competitively online. And so my outlet was to I was a nerd, and I'm still a nerd.
Where does that drive come from?
I love video games, and
But it's not just video games. It's like wrestling. It's skateboarding. It's bodybuilding. It's like, where does
I'm hard on myself. I'm competitive, and I was always trying to be independent. Like, I didn't want people to do things for me. I wanted to do things on my own. And so one of my outlets was video games. Like, for multiple summers, I'd stay in and just play video games, and that was an even playing field for me. They didn't know what I looked like. They didn't know I had a disability. Didn't have to tell that, and I could beat them. And so, like, I would put my emotions towards that. But I talked about on my low days, I'd cry in the shower because no one ever saw it. And if I came out and my eyes were red, I'd tell them I got soap in my eyes because, like, no one could see that I was crying. And or I'd cry in my room at night. Well, like, I just didn't want to, like, put that on other people, you know? And so I came back to school and you know, I was like, I'm going to become a wrestler. You know, everyone's like, hey, why'd you cut your arm off? And people were like, Nick, let's be real. How are you going to become a wrestler, let alone an athlete? Yet, Nick, look, you have no legs and one arm. Like, what are you thinking? And there's always going to be outside noise. Always. There's going to be haters. There's going to be naysayers. And sometimes it's your closest family and friends that, you know, that aren't on the same alignment or just don't share that same vision. And the beauty behind that is the only person that needs to believe in your vision is you. You're like, no one else matters. And so I looked at these people. I'm like, you're right. I'm not going to become a wrestler. I'm going to become a varsity wrestler. And I don't know if it was the list my parents handed, you know, the doctors handed over a list and said, these are all the things your son won't be able to do. I don't know if it was that, but I always carried this little chip on my shoulder to not only prove to myself, but to prove people wrong. And so my junior year, tried out for my wrestling team. I was a JV wrestler. And I remember telling my boys, you know, in the room, I said, guys, beat me up. Like, don't hold back. Pick me up, slam my face into the mat. Like, do whatever you need to do, because if you hold back on me, I'm not going to know how to become the best wrestler you could possibly be. Like, it's the same approach my parents took. If they would have held back and put me in a bubble, I would have got slapped in the face by all these challenges. I wouldn't know how to handle things, right? And so they did. You know, they were amazing friends by beating me up. And I got my butt kicked for sure. Like, wrestling was a realization of how far I could push myself mentally and physically.
What did the coach say to you?
My coach was bad to the bone. He was a scary dude.
Did he know that you were cutting your arm off, or did he find out after you did it that you were going to come out for the wrestling team?
I don't even think I mentioned it.
So you cut your arm off and created the potato.
Yeah.
And then describe to me how this conversation with your wrestling coach went.
They already, you know, like, there was wrestling coaches that wanted me, like, when are you going to wrestle? And then maybe I told them, maybe I'm not, but I was just like, hey, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to try out. And to be specific, Bischoff, he was my brother's coach. He was a very scary coach and very, like, bad to the bone coach, old school. And one of my first practices, he was, like, running the practice, and he came over and picked me up and put it on me. Like, was like, put me in a half Nelson, and was like, not that tough yet, brother. And, like, was just that he was hard on me. And I'm like, I needed that, you know? Like, he realized that. He's like, look, this kid doesn't want to be held back. All right, I'll show him what's good. And he came over and maul on my head and tussle with me and treated me just like the others. And he knew that's all I wanted, was to be treated like others. And so my junior year, I was JV, and my only win was he put me out for a varsity forfeit. And so I could get my varsity jacket. And I lost, like, probably like 20 times that year in JV. And I was like, thanks, coach, but I don't want the jacket. Like, here's your patch, Nick. I'm like, I'll take it, but I'm not going to go and get my varsity jacket because I didn't earn it.
What was going through your mind? I want to backtrack a little bit to your first wrestling match.
It was a summer match.
What was going through your mind, like, before that? Was it?
I was so nervous.
I was going to say, was it nervousness? Was it anxiety? Was it regret? Was it?
Oh, no. It was before my junior year. So it was right after I healed, there was a summer tournament, summer duels. And so we were in a back room in a mat, and there was just a bunch of wrestlers, and this wrestler's like, oh, I have to wrestle that kid. And, you know, there's just like a stillness, you know, and I walk out on the mat. And the one thing I want to address, because this is funny, I weighed 85 pounds, and in summer duels, the lowest weight class was 126. So I wrestled this kid. He was 40 pounds heavier than me.
Pretty much almost double your size.
And in high school, to wrestle varsity, you had to be 85 pounds. That's what you had to be. So instead of me cutting weight, I was stuffing my face. I was a chubby wrestler. And so I was always wrestling kids that were 20 pounds heavier than me, always. Mm-hmm. So I go out, and my boys, you know, Dan, Brett, all these guys, Josh, Jake, Jeff, I love you guys. They're just like, bros, let's go. Like, first match, pumping me up. Like, you got this, you got this, you got this. And I got my butt kicked. I got my butt kicked, and like, I remember like, when you're in a scrap with someone, like you don't realize the conditioning and like, how hard you got to go and how much energy you exude. And so I lost, and the kid was like, dude, like you're strong. Like that's one of the things he was like. People had to used to run a 2-on-1, and what I mean by that is, so if they were on top of me, they'd have to put both their arms on my left arm to try to tuck it in because I wasn't moving. Like this, I was a rock. And so even my junior year,
I've seen how capable you are with one finger. Like I can imagine how capable you are with one arm.
And so but he was like, dude, you are strong, and that made me feel good, even though I lost, and I came off the mat, and I was like kind of angry, I was like, oh, I lost, but like it was my first match, it was my first taste, and so. My junior year, I was JV, lost like 20 times. And then I would just, find out how I could become the best wrestler I could possibly be. So, like, head control and head play is big in wrestling, whether that's for offense or defense. And so I'd have my coaches maul on my head. I'd have them push on my head, and I'd lift it up, or I'd push this way. Tenpenny, he would push on my neck all these different ways and strengthen my neck. So that way, people couldn't move me. And so I had to work. I had to focus on my strengths, right? And the one thing when I wanted to become a wrestler, the only little bump in the road I saw that I had was the fact that my arm hurt. It wasn't this whole thing, because I knew if I worked harder than the other guys, that this would my hard work and dedication would make up for this. This wouldn't matter. My senior year, I came out as a 106-pound varsity wrestler. I was still 85 pounds, so I was wrestling, a lot of weight, a lot weight heavier than me, but I'm still in this mode of why. Like I haven't fulfilled my why. I haven't got that question, and I'm still like, why me? And I didn't understand why there was gymnasiums packed to watch me wrestle, because I wasn't good. My senior year, I was 2-17. I got 2 real wins, and that was 2 more wins I got the previous year.
What did the first win feel like?
My first win was in a summer match, and it's funny in wrestling. Like the guys would always joke, it was funny if kids had good shoes, if kids had cool shoes, they were better than you, and if kids had tattoos, they were better than you. My first tattoo, I was 16. It's inspired down my ribs, and so when I was in my singlet, I had a tattoo, and it was you could see it. And so I was only one of the only guys in school that had a tattoo. So like,
if you didn't need to stick out enough, go ahead and get a tattoo.
yeah. And so my first win, my best friend Dan had the same shoes as these kids. He was like, Dan goes down on my level. He goes, ooh, he's got my shoes. He's gonna beat you up. And my friend, I love the way they. I love it
how your friends were. Like, they gave it to you.
Oh, yeah. I love it. They're my dudes. And so I go out on this match, and I'm not used to winning, ever. This is my first win. And so first period, I get a takedown. I take this kid down, and I'm like, I'm winning. Like, I don't know what's going on. This is weird. Second period, I escape, and I'm up like 2 points now.
Is the crowd just going buck?
Yeah. And this is different for me. So I'm up like 2 points. And the last period, there's like 30 seconds left into the period, the last round, and I'm up by 1 point. And so that means I took top. I had top. It was his choice. Right. So that means when I set up, and I got to hold him down. If I let him escape, or if he takes me down, it's 2 points. If I let him out, it's 1 point, and I tie it up.
And you don't have the weight of your legs, so literally, like you don't have any foundation or stability.
Like
so you have
pushing
to be
in on it.
Really, really crafty to pull the elbow.
Yeah. I had 30 seconds left, and in wrestling, you get stall warnings if you're not making any movements. Mm-hmm. If you're not like, top man, come on, make some moves.
Right.
And so you get a stall warning. I think you get a stall warning, and then the third one, they get a point. So if I would have got hit with a stall warning and he got out, I would have lost the match. 30 seconds left. I look up at the clock. They're like, Nick, hold on. Like, you just got to hold on. Boom. The ref calls the whistle, like, go. And the kid gets up, and I'm holding on to this kid's leg for dear life. He's dragging me around the mat. He can't get me off his leg.
Do you have footage of this?
I don't know where it is. I want to maybe. That'd be awesome.
We gotta find it because I want to put it on this show.
That would be wild. I haven't even seen it. And in wrestling, you tie your shoelaces. You tie them up, and so there's like 15 seconds left, and I'm literally holding on by my chin, my potato, and this arm onto this kid's shoelaces. I'm bleeding. His shoelaces cut my face. He's like, hold on. 3, 2, 1. He didn't escape, and I just lay there. I'm like, you're like, yeah. I'm like, did I just? I was like, his kid started bawling his eyes out. He was crying. He was so pissed because he was trying everything to get out, and he was probably a starting wrestler too, and I won, and I'm like, oh my God, my boy's like, dude, like, this is crazy. And that was my first win. And I'm like, oh my God, man, like, I did it. Like, I did it. Like, if I lost the rest of my life, I wouldn't care. Like, I got that one legit win. Like, I knew that kid didn't hold back. Like, he gave everything. And so I come off the mat, I'm bleeding off my face, and I won. And that was my first taste of the win. But to go into, where I found my why, I didn't understand why there were standing ovations when I lost. And I came off the mat one time after losing, and this lady came up to me. And she was crying, and I'm like, oh, man, what now? What did I do? She got down my level.
Were you really thinking, like, what did I do?
Yeah, I was
like you had to know that she was coming up to you to acknowledge you.
Yeah, but, like, I was just like, what's wrong?
What did you do to get, okay.
Yeah, like, why are you crying? Like,
Okay.
And she got down, and she said, Nick, that was amazing. And I'm like, I lost. Like, what are you talking about? And she goes, well, I want to thank you. I said, for what? And she said, well, see, my daughter's over there on the sideline. And she's very shy, she doesn't do any sports. She never wanted to do a sport. She never wanted to do an extracurricular activity. While you were wrestling, she was asking me, like, Mom, like, I think I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. She said you motivated her. You shifted her perspective. You broke that barrier in her perspective. Something I couldn't do as a parent. I couldn't get through to her to try new things. You did it. And I was like, poof, like my mind was, blown because I was on the mat for myself. In my head, I'm like, I'm trying to dig myself out of a hole. Right. I'm trying to live my life to the fullest. I'm trying to find my purpose. And this girl was getting motivated. I was changing people's lives passively. I was like, oh, my God, well, imagine if I focus my energy on helping people. Like, I could probably change a lot of lives.
You don't give yourself enough credit. You were not changing people's lives passively. Nick, you cut your arm off. There was no passive. It's funny to me. Like, to me, passive is like just showing up and going through the motions. To you, passive is cutting your arm off and wrestling with no arm, with one arm, one finger, no legs. That's passive to you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I wasn't focused.
I cannot wait for my son to listen to this. And for all the people out here that are watching this, let your kids listen to this because my son struggles with confidence.
Yeah, we all do. We all do. Take a sense of comfort.
It breaks my heart, but to know what you've gone through and the fact that you don't acknowledge yourself, that's not passive, Nick. You haven't lived one day of your life passive. Every single thing that you do during the day, whether it's feeding yourself, getting dressed, there's nothing passive about what you do, man.
Well, thanks.
You know what I mean?
That's just how I looked at it, yeah. And so I was like, oh, my God, I'm motivating people. I'm changing lives passively. And that's when I realized, like, oh, I'm an example. Like, okay, I kind of see. I get a little taste. I'm like, oh, well, I'm put on this earth to show people what they're capable of regardless of what hand life has dealt you with, whether you think it's bad, whether you think it's good. Like, we have one, and we got to play it to the best of our ability. And so that, like, wrestling, instilled confidence in me. And that's when I realized, like, and I'm still learning each and every day, right? I'm still always getting better and learning more lessons about myself. But I was like, wow, well, the things that I thought were negative and disgusting about me that I beat myself up for all the time, this body that I live in was helping people. They turned out to be my biggest empowerments, my biggest tools of influences.
It's not helping people. It's unlocking people. Have you ever heard the expression, play it to the bone?
No.
So play it to the bone is an expression of, take it to the wall, go all in, play 100%. Like that expression, like you play life to the bone.
Thanks.
I
try.
I mean, it's so powerful. So that's wrestling. And I know we've probably gone, I don't even know how long we've been going on this podcast right now. We've touched the tip of the iceberg of what you've done.
Yeah, we can speed through. Yeah, for sure.
Let's shift gears. So high school, take me through high school and graduation. And we don't need to speed this up, man. If this podcast takes 3 hours, people are glued to the screen right now. I guarantee you nobody's going anywhere. So take me through high school graduation. Like, where do you go with your life from high school wrestling and really kind of everything that you've known, your high school friends, because I'm sure a lot of them, like, they left for college.
Yeah.
And this is the portion of your life that I don't really know that well.
Perfect.
And I'm so interested to know, like, not just like what you did, but really like what's going through your mind. Like, where do I go? Like, what's my career? Am I going to school? Am I going to like wrestle in college? Like,
yeah.
Like, what are you experiencing when high school graduation is starting to upcome and a lot of people kind of have their next year or 4 years of their life determined of what they're going to do? What's going through your mind?
I'm scared. And the reason why I'm scared is because My mom was always, Nick, as long as you're doing what you're like, as long as you're happy. She texted me the other day. She's like, she said, I told you this your whole life, and I asked you this your whole life, but are you happy? I said, yeah, Mom. Like, I'm good. I promise. Like, I'm doing good. And so my mom was like, as long as you're happy, I love what you're doing. And my dad was like, Nick, you're happy, but what's your career? Like, you got to feed yourself, brother. Like, you need to figure out what you're doing. And that was always a stressor for me because I knew I couldn't work regular jobs like other kids. And so that was like a stressor on me.
You could if you wanted to.
Probably, yeah.
There's no probably, man. I feel like you're limitless.
Yeah, but in my head, right, I'm like, well, maybe there's less jobs that I could do. So I applied to the same college as Dan, my best friend Dan.
Okay, yeah.
Which was Salisbury, Maryland. We both got accepted. And so, but at that time, the app Vine was released in 14. And that's when I graduated high school, was 2014. But before that, so the app was popping off. And I was like, man, well, I know what it feels like to be at my lowest point. I know what it feels like to be disgusted in my body. And I know even as we're on this podcast that millions of kids and adults right now feel that same way, that are struggling. And so I was like, well, I don't want anyone else to feel like that. And so if I could help people, then let me help people. Like, let me figure out a way. So I was like, I want to post something that's never been done.
So you wanted to scale your influence because you're describing like the stories of like moms coming up to you in high school and, gyms being filled in high school. But that's one thing that I'm so thankful for in my own life. But, to relate it to your life is social media. You're actually able, just like a business, you're able to scale just by pulling your phone out of your pocket. We just did an Instagram Live before this podcast because I wanted people to have the opportunity to ask questions and be acknowledged for their questions on this show. So back to Vine, I'm thankful for social media for a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of bad things about it because the comparisonitis and people comparing their lowlights to other people's highlights, and it leads to depression and anxiety and all this stuff. But this is the part of social media that is magical.
Yeah.
So Vine can only record like 6
seconds.
6 seconds at a time.
Yeah.
So Vine just comes out. It's 2014. What happens?
I'm like, oh my God, well, this stuff's popping off. Everyone's on Vine. I'm like, well, if I could post something that has never been done before, the shock and awe factor, right? Like, if I can post something and leverage it, like, if people never seen something and it's funny, like, it's going to catch. Like, it's got to get a following. And so I'm sitting with my friends. I'm like, what's never been done? What's never been done? I'm like, well, is there any legless guys crawling around Walmart pretending to be a zombie?
No, you don't go through the Guinness Book of World Records and figure out like which one you want to do or what hasn't been done.
I'm like, what? Yeah.
Who hasn't gone to Walmart or who's gone to Walmart with no legs?
And scared people
and
like a
scared
zombie.
people.
So I was like, hey, that's
really
a good
are
idea.
Crazy, Nick.
Oh,
really
yeah, I'm wild. I'm a wild
crazy,
boy for
man.
sure. And so I'm like, dude, that's a good idea. And so in Jersey, I put fake blood on my face. I put fake blood on my clothes. I'm a senior in high school. I go out to my local Walmart, which I'm not allowed in that Walmart anymore. I've been kicked out. Been kicked out like 3 times. Like, brother, just
You're blackballed from Walmart.
Yeah. But they're probably grateful for it. And so, we're looking for a victim, and I see this guy is very heavily invested in the paper towels. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, guys, pull out your phone. Let's see if we can get this guy. And so I come around the corner and go, rah! And I come around, and he just, and he throws the paper towers at my face.
I've seen this video.
Yeah, and
We're going to put this over the show.
You can pull it, pull it off.
We will.
And so I'm like, guys, was that 6 seconds? I apologize to the dude. He's like, dude, that was pretty cool. And I'm like, like 6 seconds. And he's like, yeah, we got it. And so I'm on my way home. I'm in the car. And I'm writing up the caption. What is it going to be? What am I going to label this? And so I'm like, well, if this reaches 500 people, like 500 kids or adults, and like I said, they can look at the phone and go, wow, man, look how happy Nick is in a situation. Maybe I could be a little bit more confident in mine, or just empower them. And so I posted that video. I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning and have over 80,000 likes and over 80,000 revines, which are reposts. It hit the top. They had a popular page. It was the #1 video. And like people were like, whoa, what's going on? Like, this is crazy. And the other point, we talked about how social media can be bad. I've heard every insult off in,
Oh, I'm sure. I can
Vine,
imagine.
like imagine me. That was my first sense of fame. And I'm reading through the comments and people are like, what is that? Like, you name it. It was just like the same cycle, right? But
because people are watching that and they're thinking it's entertainment and it's not a real person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're thinking when they watch that it's the other person on the other end of the phone that actually created this is never going to like look at these comments.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what social media is, and they'll leave these comments to try to get the acknowledgement or the laughter, or to get people to
like it,
and be like, oh yeah, you're right, that's so funny.
Yeah.
It's a person.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
what did you experience? Because that was probably, because you said your childhood, you said like you had so many homies, you know, and your mom supported you but didn't protect you. Your dad supported you but didn't protect you. Your homies were the same way in high school. Your coach was the same way. Like, he supported you and loved you, but it was tough love.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that you more than likely probably had to experience like rejection, especially publicly.
Yeah. It was tough. Like, that was my first, like, dude,
When you say tough, like, what goes through your mind when tough? I want you to dive deeper, because that was probably, I remember the first time that I was like really rejected, and it's something I'll never ever forget. What was going through, aside from tough? What were you experiencing?
Well, so yeah, I mean, humans, we're the only people that can think a thought and make ourselves happy, and then get ourselves in a really dark place. And so Vine was mostly kids, right? And they're ruthless. And so even if they're little and they don't know, like, this is disgusting, like, you're disgusting looking, like, just like Eli, they don't even know what they're saying, right? But it's just like, I read it, I'm like, oh, maybe I am, you know, like.
When you were reading that, did you know to disassociate yourself from those comments?
Oh no, it was
So
it was new.
what was that experience like for you?
I would get upset, I would lash out, I would comment back, I would, feed into that negative energy, and the one thing that hurt me the most is my parents would read the comments.
Yeah.
And because they're super fans of me, even on my Instagram, everything, like they're probably watching the live, like they're just, and it upset me so bad, like I would read the comments and just like I would cry, like when I would see stuff, I'd be like, man, well, why are they? I'm trying to help, and why are they making fun of me? Like, I'm trying to do good. Like, why do you have to call me a freak? Like, why do you have to call me disgusting? Like, or they're like, kill it before it reproduces was one big one. I'm like, man, like, and I'm like, why? Like, why are you talking to me like this? And I would cry. And like I said, everything's a muscle. So here I am, a 18, 17-year-old kid, and I'm like, it's hard to handle, because like it's on a 10x scale of like teasing's teasing, right? But when like there are thousands of comments,
that's hateful, man. That's not
thousands
teasing.
of comments. And what I've learned was like, well, Nick, like that. The positive comments will always outweigh the negative. It's something that I learned over time. But like I always tell my parents, because I'd go into the living room and I know my dad would be reading the comments, and I'm like, Dad, stop, like, don't, like, Mom, Dad, don't read that, because I don't want to upset them, because I knew it upset them. And
I'm going to pause you real quick, and one thing that stuns me, and I want to acknowledge this right now, is everything that you've gone through, and it's been a recurrent theme during this episode, that you're constantly trying to almost protect your parents from knowing exactly what you're going through. Like, your mental fortitude it's blowing my mind right now, because constantly you're talking about, I didn't want to share this with my parents because they might experience this. I didn't want my parents to read these comments because I didn't want them to experience this. Like, your mental strength and your mental fortitude and the persistence that it must have taken, and that what it takes daily. Like, I want your parents to know, and I'm sure they're watching this, you are an extraordinary human being.
Thanks. Thank you.
Like, I can tell how much you love your parents, but
yeah.
As strong as they are to have raised you, like, I want you to know that you can talk to your parents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't have to protect your parents. You inspire your parents.
Yeah.
You know
Thank
what I mean?
you.
You're tougher than they'll ever be.
Yeah.
And you don't have to protect them. And I also want you to know, when you hit those rough days, you call me and you fly right out, or I'll fly to you. And I mean that, man.
I'm in, man.
You know
I'm in, yeah.
You don't have to protect yourself. Like,
Thanks.
there's especially, and I want to give this opportunity for people that are watching this to leave a comment, to leave a review if it's iTunes, but leave a comment if it's YouTube. This is probably halfway point of this podcast, but there's just been so many things that are blowing my mind right now. So if you're watching this video, scroll down and write a note to Nick, not to me, write a note to Nick about what this has meant to you, because you're talking about all these comments of all these hurtful and hateful things of what people are saying to you, and I'm getting emotional thinking about it. But this is our opportunity for our redemption story for these people. Because I guarantee you, the millions of people that saw that Vine when they were little kids, they're adults now. You know,
Yeah.
those millions of people are now, they're able to see you transcend what occurred and rise above, and all the while protecting other people, protecting your parents, protecting your friends. This is our opportunity to turn things around and let Nick know how much his struggle that led to strength, how much it means to us. So scroll down and leave a review or leave a comment specifically for Nick, because I want you to have an opportunity to read these.
Thank you.
And I'm going to print these comments out when these people leave these, and I'm going to make a book for you. And to the next day that you're having a rough time, you know, and you're feeling the overwhelm of what life is for you, I want you to be able to go back, and I want you to be able to read these comments and to
Thank
know
you.
how much of a difference that you're making.
Thanks, man.
So if you guys take a minute to
dope.
scroll down and do this.
Thanks, guys.
Nick
I love
deserves
you.
this.
Love you guys too.
You deserve this like so much, man.
Thanks.
And I'm excited for this gift to be given to you by all these people, because you are an extraordinary human being.
Thank you. Yeah, man. And so to get back in, I caught the trend. I'm like, man, like if I make funny videos, like people love it though. You know, people love it. And so I did that for under a year. I gained 1 million followers on Vine, doing a bunch of, you know, pranks. And that led me to Fox hiring me to scare Norman Reedus, the main actor of The Walking Dead in Japan.
I love that show.
And so I was
man.
18, and I got to bring my parents out. You know, that was one of my goals in life is to be able to not only provide like financial freedom for myself and those around me that I can help, my family, my friends, but give people experiences that they didn't think they could have. And so for me to be able to fly my parents out first class to Tokyo for a vacation and me pranking was like, it made me feel like a hero, you know, because my parents never thought they were going to go to Japan. Sorry guys, but you never thought you were going to go to Japan, right? Tokyo and stay in the Ritz-Carlton. And so I got hired to do that. And that just goes to show, like, when you come out of yourself and you've realized that serving people, like, that's when amazing opportunities come into your life. It'll come back. And I'm a big believer in energy and the universe, and the way what you put out comes back. And so then I realized, so back to college. So now I graduate high school, and so I go out to orientation in Maryland with Dan and with one of my brother-in-law, and first my dad, and super uncomfortable situation. And
What was uncomfortable about
I don't.
it?
Yeah, I'll tell you. I don't know if I don't regret anything. My life would have been way different if I would have went, right? But I was like, oh man, like I didn't have a power chair. I didn't have a power, like I would get pushed around, and so I realized like I was gonna need a power chair. That, you know, like college is a big deal, like scary for anyone, right? And so it was scary for me to be like, oh man, I'm gonna have to
It's
step
like kind
up
of on your own for the first time.
Yeah. And so like I looked at my dad. I'm like, Dad, I was like, I don't want to do this. And he's like, come on, son. Like, you know, like my dad's like, come on, man. Like, you got to do this. I was like, Dad, I'll think about it, but like I can't promise you that I'm gonna go to college. Like, this is kind of scary. And so I did the pranking, and I got contacted to be a core cast member of like an Impractical Joker show, but with the whole cast was disabled, so you could pull pretty crazy pranks. And so I'm new to business. I'm 18, 19 years old. And so I'm new to business. I'm new to contracts. I'm new to everything. And so they were like, Nick, we need you out here. We need you out in LA to film a pilot. Like, you got to move out here.
You're having to move 3,000 miles across the country, Jersey to LA.
Yeah, and they were a little resistant.
So you didn't want to go to Connecticut or
Maryland?
You didn't want to go to Maryland, but you were like, hey, LA, let's go.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so I got a roommate, and I was like, Mom, Dad, I got to do this. And they were like freaking out. I just got my car, by the way, and so I'm able to drive. I have a car adapted. And so I shipped my car out there, and you know, LA is super expensive. I was paying like $1,700 a month for this loft. It was a shack. And I need to talk about this more too. I signed my lease. 2 weeks later, they canceled the show. They're like, hey, it didn't get picked up. You know, thanks for the opportunity.
So you shot the pilot.
No, we didn't even shoot the pilot. I was
never
out there
even
to
shot
shoot
the
the pilot,
pilot.
but I didn't know anything about business. Like, we need you out here. You got to move. And I was already committed. I'm like, oh, this thing's going to happen. 2 weeks in, they canceled the show. And I'm like, I don't have any source of income. Like, you know, that was another rock bottom. I refused to tell my dad I was broke, my parents that I was going broke. I had money from the Fox thing, from the prank. I got paid a good amount of money for that, so I had a chunk of change to go out there with. And but like I didn't have any income, and so like I see my bank account going down, and my dad's like, "Hey, doing great, Dad. Just the show got canceled, but I'm trying to find other things. Don't worry, I'm good." I was sleeping on a pile of towels. I didn't have a bed. My diet was like, I was eating ramen. I was on the college boy diet, right? I was eating like, ramen noodles.
Top ramen.
And it was the first time I felt like I knew what it felt like to go to sleep hungry. I was eating like peanut butter and tortillas. Like I'd rather pay my rent and not mess up my credit because I knew that was pretty important. So I'd rather, have money for my rent and then go ahead and eat whenever I could because I didn't want to mess up my credit because that's longevity. I was like, if I mess my credit up now, you just started adulthood, you're going to be like screwed. And so, I stuck that out for 6 months. And through there, I never even talked about this. Through there, my brother called me like 3 months in and told me that he was addicted to heroin. And I never talked about that. And sorry, but I got to come out with some things. And so he was like,
No, it's
I'm
good,
the
man.
lighthouse. I'm the lighthouse.
Man.
And so he came to me and was like, "Hey, man, I'm going through this." And I was like, "How are you gonna put that on me?" And so that was just something that was going on, and that's all I'm gonna touch on about that. Still going down, still in a rough spot. And so that had a lot on me, and so I refused to tell my parents I was broke, and then I finally moved home, and I was like, what's next? I don't want to do pranking anymore. It doesn't really fulfill me, and when I have kids and grandkids, I want them to know me for much more than crawling around Walmart.
Right.
And so I
was that something that you were proud of when you were doing the Walmart? I know you had an amazing intention to do it, but was it something that after you did it, after you kind of became notable for doing it, was it something you wanted to do more of? Or
I feel like people didn't take me serious because I was a prankster. It was a joke thing, right?
Right. That was my question. Like, you did it because you wanted to inspire people that even though, like, look at Nick, look what life dealt him, and he's still happy. Like, is that something that continued to inspire you to do more of the pranking, or because I feel like I see you in a way that I don't know if everybody sees you because I've had the opportunity to speak with you like more than just this podcast. Like, I feel like that would be unfulfilling for you because I see how much of a purpose that you have.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Was that a short-lived fulfillment?
It was. It like I said, it didn't fulfill me, and people did, like, although it was a career, people didn't, like, they looked at me as a jokester.
Right,
and,
like
I want to be
circus.
taken serious. For example, I hope you're watching this. My superintendent, when I came back from the Japan thing, he like went up to me and was like, "Oh, what'd they pay you? $500?" And I'm like, "How about plus 10 G's, brother?" I didn't. Yeah, it went right back in his face, and never. I never even messed with him after that. I don't like don't treat me like that. Like, if you're gonna,
so he was not supportive.
No. Oh, my math teacher. Shout out to my math teacher. She failed me on my midterm. She didn't allow me to retake my midterm that year because I was in Japan for a week right when they had the midterm, and I came back. I said, "Can I retake it?" She's like, "No, you made that choice to go do those prank things." And
wow.
And I'm like, "All right, I got you.
Look at you now.
I got you. Like, I got you. Don't worry about me."
Dude,
like,
I'm telling you right now. I'll speak this into existence right now. I know everybody watching right now. You're gonna be a millionaire doing this. What you're doing right now, talking with your mouth. You're going to become a multi-millionaire doing this.
Thank you.
I see that for you in your future.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the first person that says it publicly.
I'm on my way, man. I've been grinding. We'll talk about that career too.
You're going to be a multi-millionaire, and you're going to do this and I know you're doing it for a living right now. Within 12 months, you're going to become the most sought-after speaker in the world.
That's my goal. I'm here to take over.
I see that for you.
I'm here to take over.
You deserve that. Your story deserves that. Your parents deserve to be able to experience that. And you have that gift inside you. Like, I know your intention behind being sitting here right now. And this book is going to be a New York Times bestseller.
Thank you.
And I know that my tribe of people, and we're going to talk about that book shortly.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to go out there.
Thank you.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm buying 100 copies of it.
You're the man, bro. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so, I made an announcement to over 1 million people. I said, "Guys, this don't really fulfill me anymore." I said, these are the things I'm going to set out to do. I set my intentions. I was like, "Look, this is what I'm here to do. I'm going to become a bodybuilder. I'm going to fitness model. I want to break."
You just said, "I'm going to become a bodybuilder."
Oh, yeah. I said, "I'm going to become a bodybuilder. I'm going to be a fitness model. I'm going to break into the mainstream modeling industry, and I'm going to become a keynote speaker." And I said, "I don't know how I'm going to do these things, but these are the things I'm going to work towards." Like, I'm making people clear, like, these are my intentions. Ride with me or don't ride with me, but this is what I'm out to do. And I took a lot of heat. People were like, "Dude, you have a great career in pranking." why, and I got a lot of unfollows, and that's fine, because I was on the step or the hop to, fulfill me. And so unfortunately, there wasn't a book for man with no legs, one arm. This is how you bodybuild. It would have saved me some time, but there wasn't. So I had to write my own book of bodybuilding. And so I went into the gym, and just like everything in life, it's trial and error. And so my buddy Josh Foka, he was he's still my best friend. One of the wrestlers. He took me under his wing, and we started lifting, and it was just going into the gym and figuring out what movements can hit me, the mind muscle connection, building it. And I fell in love. with bodybuilding. I fell in love with posing. I fell in love with all of it. I didn't realize how much I was going to fall in love with fitness. But I've looked at the industry, and I was like, well, there's no bodybuilder with no legs, one arm. Let me shocking all these people. Let me shake up this industry up. And so I'm a shaker. I just shake things up. And so
you're a disruptor is what
you are.
Yeah. Like in the greatest sense of the word.
Yeah.
Like you are in marketing, the pattern interrupt. The shock and awe is what grabs people attention and holds it. Like I believe that God created your body to be a pattern interrupt, to grab people's attention, but your true gift is your ability to be a storyteller. And the greatest speakers in the world are not speakers. They don't speak at people. They tell stories. So not only are you gifted with the ability to tell stories, you have a story worth telling. So it's not just your body. Your body's the pattern interrupt, which is going to grab people's attention. That's 7 seconds of a video. Yeah. The first 7 seconds of a video is going to make or break you, because if you can capture people's attention in the first 7 seconds, then you have their attention until you lose it. I truly believe that God gave you the body that you have to be the pattern interrupt, because your true gift is to be able to tell a story. And your mindset and your ability to buck the system, and you've mastered the art of blindness, meaning you just say what you're going to do and you figure it out later. You jump off the cliff and then figure out how am I going to land safely. And that's a gift, man. Like your self-confidence is truly extraordinary, in addition to a million other things. But that's one of the reasons I feel like you will shift the world. You'll dent the universe because of the gifts that you've been given, but not just that you've been given them. You view them as gifts, not as disabilities. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like I am so excited to nurture this relationship and to support you, and just be a stepping stone along your journey, man. I am so excited for what the future has in store for you, but more importantly, all the people that are going to have the opportunity to be blessed by your story.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I appreciate that, bro. You're the man. And yeah, so my knowledge in nutrition got better, my knowledge in training got better, my physique started to change, and my thing was I didn't want people to think it was just like a phase. Like Nick's just looking for something else, and I was like, no, I'm gonna do this. Got in good shape, started building a bodybuilding following on Instagram, and it was pretty cool. Like I was like,
that was
wow.
the first time that I really paid attention, because I saw the Vine, but it was a Vine. It was 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Like you don't get to know anything
there's
about
no
the
depth.
person.
Yeah.
But when I ran across your page, because I'm obviously into fitness as well, and then to find out that you're like a Jersey guy, I'm like, man, what a freaking awesome guy.
Yeah. Thanks.
Dude, it's a small world that we were connected yesterday.
It's wild.
Man.
Guided.
So don't let me interrupt you. So
Yeah.
So you're getting into nutrition, you're learning more, your bodybuilding page and brand is growing.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, well, I built this following in, fitness. And I was like, in a business standpoint, I was like, it's super marketable, because with fitness, you can't buy a fit body. No one can take away from me that I grinded hard, my blood, sweat, and tears. Like, you can't take my conditioning away from me. Like, I didn't buy it. You can't just like, oh, Nick was given that. Nope, not this time.
No, earned.
Earned. Yeah, for sure. And so I got, I built that bodybuilding following, and then I was like, all right, well, I can tie this into speaking now because it's motivational. And so I moved to Tampa a year ago, and right when I moved to Tampa, I committed to a bodybuilding show. And so I told everyone, I was like, guys, I know nothing about bodybuilding. I know nothing about competing, posing, etc. But I'm going to get on the bodybuilding stage before 2017 was over. Basically paint everything I need. I want to paint the picture. It's the best way to teach people is paint pictures. And so I was like, I'm throwing myself in these waters, and I'm going to force myself to learn what I need to learn to like do it. And that's the whole thing. Like a lot of things in life, you're gonna be like, man, I don't think I'm ready for. Jump in the water because like you said, just take that step and then learn later. Like stop thinking, just like do it.
You don't take steps, you jump.
Yeah, I
You
just take
leap.
some hops, brother.
You swan dive off of the cliff. But that it served you well, man. I mean, look how capable you are. You make these bizarre declarations, but you've fulfilled all of them.
Yeah. And so I did a 12-week preparation, and so I did 12 weeks. I dedicated my whole life to that. You know, I was shredded, and I also knew that.
I've seen the pictures.
Thank
When I
you.
say, and we'll put a picture up right now to be able to really like showcase because, like you said, and that's one of the reasons that I love fitness the way that I do too, is money can't buy that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like you walk in a room like as fit as you are, people instantly know things about you. They know that you're disciplined. They know that you will make sacrifices. They know that you're consistent. And that's one thing that I really loved about it because there's always going to be people that have cars and clothes
there's
and
always gonna be
homes.
someone,
There's
yeah.
always going to be people that have that, but you can be given that. You can, for whatever
Yeah.
reason, there's other ways that you can get that. There's no way the richest man in the world can never buy
A
the
fit body,
physique of
yeah.
his body, you
Yeah.
know, the physique of his dreams. That has to be earned, and
that
it
was
has to be
confidence.
learned for a really long time. What did making that declaration and then earning that physique, because it was substantial, what
Thanks.
you were able to achieve in 12 weeks, what did that do for you personally? Like how you viewed yourself, and how did that propel and inspire you to do any other things in your life?
Yeah, first and foremost, got to thank my best friend Cody because he dedicated his 12 weeks of me in the gym just beating me up. So Cody, you're the man. And so I was like, oh man, another way to shock the world, right? Like because I knew if I would have walked out on the stage at 15% body fat, people would have clapped and said, oh, look at Nick.
Just like the gym.
Yeah.
Just when
I'm
they
like,
would pack
all right,
the gym
yeah, but
just
I
because
was
you were
like,
trying.
I'm not coming out like that. I'm coming out shredded. And so 10 weeks, I was 10 weeks through my prep. Never skipped my diet through the hurricanes of them rescheduling the show. Never skipped my diet. Never skipped a workout. Dedicated my whole life to this thing. I was 2 weeks out. I went through Mr. Olympia for just to go
I
out
was
and hang
there.
with the fans. And I talk about moments of being guided. The expo was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I went Friday. I went Saturday. I didn't go Sunday. Decided to go to City Athletic Club, and I go in, and they're like, bro, the Rock's upstairs lifting. And I'm like, that's wild. I was like, can I still get my lift in? I'm on prep. Like, got to work out. And so I climb up these stairs, and I look over, and there's Dwayne, and he's got 4 bodyguards there, and he's doing dips. I'm like, oh, I've never seen The Rock ever. That's crazy. And so I looked at my guys. I'm like, guys, I promise you, this guy already knows who I am through my bodybuilding videos. He tweeted out one of my videos prior.
I
Was
saw
like,
that.
yeah.
That's actually how I
For
got
ballers,
hip to you.
yeah. And so I was like, guys, he already knows who I am. If The Rock's who he says he will, he'll come up. He's an amazing dude, I promise. And
So you knew he was going to come say hi
I was
to
like,
you.
he's got to. I'm like, he already knew who I was, right? And I'm not going to bother him. And so, I'm going out through my lift, and at one point he's right next to me. He's doing curls. He's got his headphones in. I'm not paying any attention to him. He's not paying any attention to me. I don't want to bother him. And it's funny because in that gym there was like 4 other legends in there. There was Kai Green and C.T. Fletcher. And so The Rock went over into the corner. He took off his headphones, and everyone bombarded him, taking pictures of Kai Green. Everyone's taking pictures of Kai Green, C.T. Fletcher. I look at my team like, guys, promise. Just like, it'll happen. Like, don't bother him. And so his security guard taps on my shoulder. He goes, you're Nick, right? I'm like, that's me. He's like, can Dwayne meet you? I'm like, yeah. Like, I've been waiting.
Let me finish this set.
What time is it?
It's on my bucket list to meet him, man.
Yeah,
and
he's wild.
honestly, you deserve it 1,000 times
Thanks.
more than anybody else that I know. So, all right. So take me through the story. So his bodyguard taps you on the shoulder, and you're like, yeah, I'll meet him.
Yeah, so he's like, I'll put you in the corner. We'll do a private meeting. So he comes over. He gets down on my level. He goes, Nick, I'm such a big fan. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, stop. I'm going to start, like, freaking out. In my inner fangirl. And so he's like, can I grab a picture with you? And I'm like, yeah. So we take that picture. And I looked at him. I said, hey, I told him about all the things. I told him I was writing a book. So that was like a year. Like, now that it's out, it's coming out Monday. It's going to be pretty cool. And so I said, man, I'm going to do what you did. And he said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, you're The Rock. I said, people knew you for football. And then WWE wrestling. I think you took over the world. I said, you're in every industry, bro. And he kind of laughed. He laughed. He's humble. And I said, I'm going to do what you did. And he said, Nick, you're right. He said, because people like me and you, they put us in any industry, and we adapt and overcome. And that was like an empowering moment for me, right? I was like, oh, my God. I told him about my show. And his security guards, they wrote down like the time and everything on my show, which I didn't know, but they did. And so we took that picture. We went on. I was like, love you, bro. Big hug. 2 weeks later, I'm backstage. I'm pumping up for my competition, and Cody comes running up to me and goes, "Bro, The Rock just posted you on his Instagram." And The Rock's got over 100 million followers, like big deal. And I'm like, "Oh my God." And so he tagged me and everything, and he wrote this really long, heartfelt message, which if you guys go to his thing and scroll down long enough, you'll see it.
Yeah, we'll show it.
And at the end, he said, "I want to thank Nick for sharpening my perspective a little bit more on life." And I was like, whoa. You know, I got emotional. I was like, whoa, like, it was a moment of reassurance because, like, for the longest time, I didn't think my story was cool. I just thought, you know, like, I'm Nick. Like, sometimes I forget to tell people I drive a car because to me, it's just like me driving a car. I don't think it's cool. But the other people, it's cool. And so I go out, I compete. I took third in my class in novice. I beat full-bodied guys, which was, like, empowering for me. So I went out there shredded. And, like, I remember one guy in the crowd was like, "Show the back," because everyone that fought, my back's wild. I don't know, like, thanks, Dad, Mom, genetics. I mean, I may have no legs, but I got a wide back. And so I hit my lat spread.
Like
and
a
people
cobra.
people were freaking out. And so I beat some guys, and I took third. But, like, by The Rock, you know, saying that and posting that, I was like, wow, it was more reassurance. And I was like, well, if I can inspire this guy, top tier of the world, that I may not have legs, but I'm here to make a massive footprint into this world. It was more reassurance that I was able to shake the world. And so I competed. I did that. I gained, thanks, Dwayne, I gained over 100,000 followers from his post. You know, people were going wild. And kind of, like, you know, boosted me even more. And then after that, I was like, man, should I keep competing or should I focus my energy in you know, speaking? And that's where, you know, life guided me into my two business partners and my best friends now, Ratmir and Don. And, you know, just how life works, right? We're guided. Just like how we met, it was just guided. Like, I looked over on the field. I'm like, "Is that Steve?" I'm like, "Hi." You know,
Because I don't think either one of us knew that each other were going to be
I
there.
didn't know you were going to be at that.
Right.
That was the first day. It wasn't even the first day. It was just like a kind of like a low meetup.
It was like,
low-key meetup.
It was like the opening ceremonies of the Summit of Greatness, Lewis House's event.
Yeah.
And I remember looking up. You were the first person that I saw when I walked out onto the lawn. It was this big, giant lawn called I think it's like the Columbus Circle.
It's pretty cool.
And I walked out, and you were the first person that I, like, locked eyes with. And then I didn't know, like, you waved.
Yeah, and you can't tell what I'm doing. I know, I get it.
I didn't,
yeah.
but I didn't know that you were. I could tell you were waving
Yeah.
from your wheelchair, and I didn't know if you were waving at me. So I kind of, like, looked over my shoulder, and then I kind of, like, half.
And your boy was next to you. I was like him,
Right.
like
Right.
next to you. I was like him.
Right, and so I didn't know because he waved back at you too,
yeah,
right?
he thought I was
So
waving at him. I was like, "Hi,
we
but
both
Steve,
waved,
like
like
Steve."
unassuredly, like, is he waving at me? Like, I knew who you were, but I
Yeah.
thought maybe, like, somebody that you actually knew was
Yeah.
here. I didn't know you knew who I was.
Yeah.
And then we ended up talking for like 45 minutes, and I'm like, this is a God story. You know what I mean? Like, the reason that you were there, the reason that I was there, like, you're a Giants fan. You know, you knew all about me. I knew all about you. And I actually brought my film crew with me this weekend because I was planning on doing, you know, 1 or 2 podcasts, but I, like, cleared my schedule today because there's one story. Like, the one takeaway from me being here this weekend is helping your story. And
Thank
it's also another God story that your book is just coming out.
It's guided. I'm
dude,
excited.
it's a New York Times bestseller. I'm calling it right now. I'm
Guided.
speaking it into
I live
existence.
life with no expectations. You know,
Yeah,
I'm very hard on myself.
But you give that way too, the way that you've lived your life. Like, you need to acknowledge yourself, and you need to accept that the way that you are so battle tested.
Thanks.
You know, like, the way that you're going through life is just making declarations, jumping off of the cliff and figuring it out.
Yeah.
And God is opening up doors for you. Like, it's going to continue to happen because of your intention.
Yeah.
Like, what you're bringing into the universe and the reasons, not what you're doing, but the reasons that you're doing it. Don't ever change that. I know you never will, but I want to remind you why all these things are happening. Like, the drive that you have and the intention that you have is so pure, and that's why things are always going to work out with you, because you're never going to stop. Your persistence and your commitment to just constantly raising the ceiling of the limitations of what you think you're capable of it blows my mind.
Thanks.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
from
man.
bodybuilding, where do we go?
I met my business partners in Tampa through a guided mastermind, and my manager now, Ratmir. So I have my two business partners, Ratmir
Are they
and
Jersey
Don.
guys?
No, they're from Florida. Well,
Okay.
Ratmir actually came here from Russia 8 years ago.
Right on.
And so actually super guided. Like, he was supposed to go to school in England, and he was getting in the car to go to the agency to sign, and his buddy was there, and he was like, "Hey, come with me. I don't want to go alone. I'll buy you food." and his buddy persuaded him to come to America last second. And I would have never met my manager. I would have never met my guys if it wasn't for. Isn't that wild? It's wild. Like, that don't just happen.
I feel like everything about you is wild. You know what I mean?
And so I met my guys, and you know, they were. I met Ratmir first. I worked with Ratmir first, and I was like, listen, I don't know you. You know, I'm gonna have to. We're not just gonna like be best friends, all sunshine and rainbows. Like, I need to learn about you and everything. And he's like, I'll work for you for free. Let me just show you what I could do. He showed me what he could do.
People believe in you, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They believe
he
in
opened
what
my
you're
eyes
doing.
to how he told me. He's like, bro, you can. I told him my story at the mastermind. He was blown away. He's a visionary. He said, dude, you could be speaking with Tony Robbins. You could be speaking with these guys.
He needs to have you up there. As good as Tony is, like, the world needs it, but Tony needs it as well.
Thanks.
Like, it will happen.
Yeah. I did work. I'll get into that. I did work for Tony.
Dude,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
get into it, man, because you're
But
talking about your speaking
Yeah,
career.
we made the company. It'll be a year. So today's we're in October, so it'll be a year. And so we created the company, grinding, building credibility, building all these things. And you know, fast forward to now. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke in New York with Steve Forbes, Deepak Chopra, Jack Canfield.
So slow down. Say that again.
Steve Forbes, Jack Canfield, Deepak Chopra, Scorpion. I don't know if you know Scorpion. He's a guy who hacked in NASA 13. Bunch of studs. But the one thing I want to touch on is if I never believed I was capable to hang with these guys, I wouldn't be there. And that's your inner cheerleader. That's your inner beast. That's your inner, your inner man or inner woman that says, I deserve this. I deserve to be here. Just like E.T. was talking about. He's like, I deserve to be on the stage. I deserve to be one of the best motivational speakers. I was like, I deserve to be here. And so did a lot of speaking. I spoke for Tony Robbins Youth Foundation, and so I got to go out there. I actually went to an event. I went to Tony's event, and then I met him backstage. There was only 8 people that got to meet him. I finessed my way to meet him. Sorry, Tony. Finessed my way into meeting Tony. He was like, oh, my God. He's like, come to my next
thankful.
event.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, come to my next event. He acknowledged me in front of
Persistence.
10,000 people. And so, you know, I'm always for longevity relationships. I'm never here for, like, quick fixes, and that's what entrepreneurs do the best. We provide win-wins in every situation. We're not looking to just take. And so write that down. You want win-wins. You always want to provide value to people, and how can I help you? How can you help me? And so nurtured that relationship, and so I spoke for his youth leadership, and so, you know, a bunch of kids, and, you know, that was an amazing. And I came in there very humble, and my speaking got, you know, I have cultivated a very powerful way to tell my story now, and like when I'm on stage, it's a whole new energy. Like, I'm out now, I'm fired up, and through a year, like, I've only been speaking for a year. I probably spoke over 40, 50 times this year, and now I can say I'm a monster. Like, I couldn't say that in the beginning, but I'm a monster. I'm a monster now. You can't stop me. And so I'm very humble. I'm like, you have any, you know, advice, like, with kids, or like a lot of energy?
Knowing that you're
a
monster.
They're like, you have like good energy, big energy, and good storytelling. I'm like, oh, okay, you know, I'll try my best. I come out there, I'm like, come on. You know, the kids are freaking out.
Cracked his skull open.
He wasn't there. He wasn't there. He was just like, it was his foundation, but he heard about it. He definitely heard about it.
I was going to say, he might not have been there, but he knew.
I come off, and the foundation's like, dude, where'd you come from? And I'm like, nice to meet you.
Jersey,
you know? Nice
bro.
to meet you.
Jersey.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. And so I've done an amazing things. Like, you know, I got on Ed's podcast. Through Sarah Centrella. She put in a good word for me. I finessed my way to Ed too. And it's just like, it's finding out how to get to people and networking, and people that are aligned in your core values and share the same vision. Those are the people you want to align yourself with. And I was like, I'm going to kidnap Ed. If you don't want to be my mentor, I'm going to bring him home with me.
What are the goals of other shows that you want to get on?
Joe Rogan. You know, Joe Rogan, Justin's been on. He's
if you're not listening to this right now, and actually, you know what? Let's do this. Every single person that's watching this right now, just hit pause and go to Twitter, and I want you to terroristically tweet Joe Rogan and let him know he needs to have Nick on his show. The world needs to have Nick on Joe's show, because it's the biggest in the world, and it'll happen.
Thank you.
You know.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Sure.
So I'm an athlete.
I know.
I'm an athlete, and I'm a speaker, and it takes a different person from a different walk of life to pierce the barrier of people, to break that, to, like, it's like the Charlie Brown effect. Your mom tells you to do your homework. Yeah. Your dad tells you. Yeah. Your teacher tells you. But when Uncle Nick comes over, suddenly doing homework's cool.
Yeah.
Right? It takes a different. One of my main goals is, since I'm an athlete, I can break the barrier even more. I want to speak to NFL. I want to speak to NFL teams, NBA teams, soccer teams. I want to speak to MLB teams. I want to do a workshop where I go in, I speak, and then I go in the weight room and show them what's up too, and just show these guys like you could fire it up. And so I'm a Giants fan.
I was just going to say,
I want to speak to the full team. I want to come in and fire these guys. Thanks. I want to, I want to fire these guys up. And like I said,
And I want you to know that this is going to occur not because of me. This is going to, like, you'll talk to the New York Giants the night before a game when they have a home game in the hotel. I know exactly where the hotel is.
We'll watch it together, too. I want you to be there.
The reason it's going to happen is not because I made the introduction. The reason it's going to happen is because of the way that you show up.
Thanks.
You know what I mean?
Thank you.
And the impact that they know that you're going to have, and you're a lifelong Giants fan.
I appreciate that.
And then once the Giants hear that and go out and dominate the next day, you're going to be the hottest ticket in town, and you'll be flying around to all the other teams,
Thank
man.
you.
But I mean,
that's my goal. They're athletes, and they're very, they're already on that top level. But they're like, whoa, and he's not just talking the talk. He's walking the walk. He's athlete. He's doing these things. Tell him about the sacrifices they make. It puts things in perspective. And so I want to fight. That's one of my goals, is to break into those industries, because I also know how power it is, and it's kind of like I'm going to be able to connect with the athletes afterwards. These people that I look up to. When I was 12, I was on the Today Show, and they surprised me with Tiki coming out. Tiki Barber came out and signed me. It's probably the only skateboard signed by an NFL football player. He gave me a skateboard. I still have it. But he was my idol. Watching Giants, I just thought he was the man, and they surprised me with him when he came out. And so, and shout out to the Today Show. It'd actually be 10-year anniversary. You should probably have me back on to see all the things I accomplished and to push my book.
You know what we should do is we should call Michael Strahan. Good morning,
Michael
America.
Strahan, he was obese.
He's still
Ballin',
obese.
remember it with the whole, it was the whole
thing?
Me? Michael, I love you too, bro.
Michael's amazing,
inspiration.
man. Dude, we'll have to try to we'll try to get a hold of Michael. I've got his number, but we'll see if he answers the phone. But he's obviously a good friend of mine, and that would be a benefit to have you on there, dude. Good morning, America. That'll happen as well.
Yeah.
We should just go ahead and line all that stuff up.
Ellen
for you.
too.
Yeah, we'll talk to Lewis. Lewis has got a direct line to Ellen.
But my thing is it's cool to be on those shows, but I just know the impact, the amount of eyes.
Dude, it's your intention. That's why these things will happen. That's why you'll get to speak to the New York Giants, is because your intention is to impact them. It's not because you want to get a bunch of autographs. You know what I mean? Odell Beckham Jr. will absolutely fall in love with you because of your intention and your value that you're going to bring to the team, the inspiration that you're going to bring to the team, the perspective that you're going to bring to the team.
I love him too. He's dope.
Dude,
he's
dope,
the man
too. And last time I went to, so I've been retired. This will be my third season out. Last time I went to training camp, they were obviously right in the middle of practice, and I was super humbled because Odell stopped in the middle of practice and ran across 3 football fields when he saw me walk into the practice facility, because I was able to mentor him a little bit when he was a rookie, because I didn't really do too much during practice. I would practice for about 15 minutes in the middle
and then go
at the
lift,
beginning
right?
of practice, and then I would just hang out on the sideline and eat sunflower seeds. And if you remember, when he first got on the team during OTA's mini camp and training camp, he didn't practice at all, and so he's rehabbing the entire time on the sideline. And we just sat there while he's riding the Aerodyne bike, rehabbing his hamstrings. And I remember him asking me all these questions, he's like, no offense. He's like, there's more Weatherford jerseys in the sidelines during training camp than there are any other jerseys except for Eli. He's like, why do they buy your jersey? I go, dude, I don't know. I'm a man of the people. And he's like, teach me. I'm like, score a couple touchdowns and then you're good.
And he did so.
And I would say he's probably sold a couple more jerseys than what I have up to this point.
Oh, good.
But I mean, what a great guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets mislabeled a lot just because of his intensity and his passion for the game, and people want to label him a certain type of way.
Yeah.
But I've never met anybody that's more passionate or intense for winning.
Yeah.
Until I met you.
Yeah.
Your drive is extraordinary.
Oh, thanks.
You know what I mean?
I thought you were going to say Odell. Thanks. I appreciate that.
No. He'll tell you too, especially after he won't cut his arm off to win. You cut your arm off just to try.
Yeah.
Perspective.
Yeah.
Perspective. Think about that.
And
you cut your arm off just to have the ability to try. I don't know anybody else that would do that.
Thanks.
You talk about sacrifice.
Yeah.
That's the definition, man.
And so that's one of my big goals, to get into NFL, NBA, all these teams, right? And to speak to them and connect with them on another level and just, build relationships. That's what I like to do. I'm a yellow energy. I'm just an emotional guy. I like building relationships. And then let's set another intention, like a Nike commercial. I think I'm the epitome of just do it. and they haven't hit me up yet. Or Nike, Under Armour, whoever wants to battle over me, I'm
we'll
fine with the battle over.
We'll make sure that they listen to this, man.
But
I mean,
like for that, it's just like I said, it's just how many eyes are on it, and like that could inspire people. And so those are some intentions, and those are some of the things that I want to do. And then I know I made you write down the question, where do you see yourself in 10 years? So
yeah.
maybe
So I wrote that down.
because I know
so
this is a long podcast, but I just
So-
make sure we have good with our time.
Where is Nick in 10 years? Like, what you've gone from bowling, then you went into wrestling after you amputated your arm, to wrestling, to social media star with Vine, to fitness industry icon, and taking that over. Like you're literally on like the rock track. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like where are you going now? Now you're an author. The book's coming out in
And
2
I'll
days.
speak about modeling. So remember,
And
I set
modeling.
the intention of modeling. So a couple weeks ago, I landed the cover of one of the New York Fashion Week magazines, and I walked on the runway in New York Fashion Week on one of the big shows. I opened and closed it, and we could throw up that picture too. It's on my Instagram. But my whole thing, I have a tattoo on my bicep. It says, "You laugh at me because I'm different. I laugh at you because you're all the same." And it's not my quote, but it's not, and that doesn't just abide to Nick. It's just everyone, like being your authentic self and showing people that when you embrace your differences, it not only empowers you, but everyone around you. And so, modeling, they struggle with suicidal thoughts backstage and everything. And I'm here to take over the modeling industry too, by the way. I'm going to take over that industry.
You will.
I want to become a Calvin. I want to become a Calvin model. I want to work with Tommy. I want to work with all the people that are accepted of different people that are different and embracing that new era. This is a new age. And so I'm working on the modeling thing. And then 10 years from now, after I've annihilated the speaking industry and my reputation is, up there, my first biggest dream was to be, a singer. My parents wanted that for me too. I took second in, American Idol and Disney. And this is something it's something I don't talk about. And so I'm going to DJ. I want to be a DJ. I want to sing and I want to rap. I want to be like a Tory Lanez, like Ty Dolla $igns, The Weeknd type stuff. That's my type of music. And I want to bring my personal development into that industry, bring that good vibes. And what I mean by that is, like, say I'm at a festival, right? And there's 30,000 people. I'm about to go on a DJ set. I want to put them through my gratitude exercise. I want to put them through a gratitude exercise and get them in that emotional state. And then for the rest of the time, they're not only super grateful, because the emotion of gratitude outweighs all the negative emotions.
Oh my gosh.
So if there's anyone in the people go to festivals to unite. Like there's no race, there's no differences when you're at a festival. People love each other. And so I want to bring that energy into that. And so put them through the gratitude exercise, get them in that emotional state, and then, give them this magical experience through DJing, through rapping, through singing. And I also want to be, an actor. I have so many movie ideas. And Rock, whenever you're ready, whenever you're not busy, I know you're the busiest man in the world, let's do a movie together. Let's do a movie where, like, you're prepping me for a bodybuilding competition or something wild. Or, like...
What do you mean something wild? Your life is something wild.
The goal is to be the most interesting man in the world, right? The Dos Equis guy ain't got nothing. I'm coming.
You are, but your resume is just, it's growing and growing and growing. And dude, I wrote down several things.
Yeah, let's do it. Because
I wrote down several things that I want to acknowledge you for, and then after we do that, we're going to take questions from social media.
Okay.
But I want to acknowledge you for your boldness. I want to acknowledge you for your confidence. I want to acknowledge you for your resistance to average. I want to acknowledge you because you triple down on your strengths and minimize your weaknesses or your disabilities. I will also want to acknowledge you for being so extrinsically inspired to impact people, because you're saying all of these goals, and none of these goals have anything to do with serving yourself. Wanting to be on Calvin Klein, which was quickly followed up with the intention in which you want to do that, because the suicide rates and because
bullying.
People are constantly like body shaming and nitpicking the smallest little things about their bodies that is leading to depression and anxiety and suicides. And then the last thing, I mean, there's a million things I could acknowledge you for, but this one is something that I will take with me for the rest of my life, and your mastery of the art of blindness. And what I mean when I say that is, you just jump and you figure it out later. Like, you just believe. You have a bulletproof faith in your ability. And it's hard for me to fathom how anyone, regardless of how they were born or how they were educated or the things that have been put in their path to help them along the way. Like, you not only have you overcome like incredible odds, even to just live, 30% chance of even surviving, like your percentage chances of doing some of the things that you've done up until this point and the declarations that you've made going forward, there's absolutely zero chance that anyone could say that you're not a master of the art of blindness. Thanks. And the faith that you have in yourself.
Thank you.
So I'm going to shift gears, and I think these are going to be incredible. I know these are going to be incredible answers, but from @Chetty Wap.
Chetty Wap, thank you.
At Chetty Wap on Instagram says, what's your far and away, like, what do you use to eliminate distractions in your life?
So, to eliminate distractions of your life, I would say what I do is it's important to have a great accountability group. And the things that need to be in a good accountability group is, like we talked about with my friends, it's people that love on you, but like, hey, you gotta keep climbing up the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you gotta keep going. By the way, we did the climbing the mountain thing too. I don't know if you saw that. I climbed a 3-mile mountain. It took me 4.5 hours for my virtual training program, my mindset program. That's a whole nother ball game too.
Dude, if we had 4 hours, we wouldn't have enough time to talk about the stuff that you've done in your 22.
And so
I'm feeling inadequate in this chair right now.
You're good, bro. And so to focus, it's just like you got to step up and realize what your priorities are. And one of the things I've realized and what people told me, it's like, Nick, you have a hard time saying no. You always want to help. And so I have to have a better, I'll even be transparent. I'm struggling. I always say yes to everything. And so like I can only spread myself thin so much. And so saying no to sometimes and realizing that you distancing yourself from those negative people isn't selfish.
I want to support you in overcoming that, because that's something that I've had to overcome in my own self, because I've struggled with so much self-worth.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was enough. So I thought in order for me to be enough and for me to be able to like earn people's love, I felt like I needed to earn their love, because I didn't feel like I was good enough to be loved.
Yeah.
The only thing that I thought I was good for was sports. And so when I wasn't playing sports, in order for me to like make a relationship with somebody that I wanted to be friends with, I thought that I had to give.
Yeah.
And I would never accept. So I'm going to support you in helping you get over feeling the obligation to say yes to everything, because what that ends up doing is it ends up minimizing the amount of time and energy and effort that you're able to put into things that truly matter to Nick. Because the things that truly matter to Nick, your intentions and your impact in this world, should never be minimized, and you don't owe anybody anything. So that was an incredible answer, though.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just focus, right, and prioritize, and realize like if this isn't like serving me or moving me forward, it's probably not something that I should be focusing a whole lot of energy on. But there's also balance.
And the thing is like another thing I want to support you with is allowing you to embrace asking for help, asking for support. Like that's not weakness. And it's another thing, like I see a lot of myself in you and a lot of things that I feel like you may be struggling with in your life, or things that I've gone through. And it's exciting for me because I feel like I can be a big brother to you. I've been on this earth almost 14 years longer than what you have. And I've been through some pretty gnarly times. I mean, obviously not adversities like you, but at the end of the day, the human emotions that I went through as a child were the same emotions that you went through as a child. And I see a big life for you, so and I want to support that. So I'm offering that support to kind of coach you through to getting to the point that you're confident in saying no to people, because you have a bigger purpose.
Yeah. Thanks.
So that's awesome.
And
I got another
likewise too. You better call me if you're having a hard time.
I will, man. Dude, if I need some emotional support, you are freaking the person I'm going to call. Another question that we had from @MAAIKEBIJKER. Not real sure how to say that. How do you get out of the really low points that you come into in your life?
Absolutely. Big key, self-awareness. And what I mean by that is realizing the state you're in. Are we allowed to curse on here?
Yeah.
All right. I don't really curse on podcasts, but this is the best way. This is
a place where we can be ourselves.
This is the best way to say it. You need to sit in your shit.
Mm-hmm.
you need to sit in your shitty diaper. Like, you need to sit in that shit for a little bit. And what I mean by that is self-awareness is like, I'll give you a perfect example so you guys know I'm not superhuman, because I'm not. I maybe look like Energizer Bunny, but we all have low days. I was 20 May. This past May, it was my birthday. I was turning 22. I was in Miami, and maybe the interaction with a female didn't go the way, maybe she said something that maybe triggered something. I got back to my place. I was in this really low state. And like I said, we're the only species that can think a thought and make ourselves happy, think a thought and make ourselves really dark. Guys are like, Nick, like, wrap me down. Nick, like, you want to go out? No, I'm good. I was in a really low place. Like, remember, girls were always my trigger, that anchor of, like, suicidal thoughts and everything. And so.
And I'm assuming that you didn't share with them, like, why you didn't want to go out.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Of course you didn't.
They got it out of me eventually. Like, dude,
Right.
come on, we're boys. Like, let us know. And so I told them, but, like, super low point. And what you need to do is you need to realize your state, realize your physiology, that you're probably slumped down, you're not talking the way you should be, and the self-talks that's going through your head. I'm saying to myself, you're disgusting. Like, girls don't like you for this. Girls don't like you for that. You're not confident. Like, you're just disgusting. Like, all these, because we tend to stack things. When one thing goes wrong, we tend to just pile a bunch of things onto us. And so self-awareness, realizing your state, soak in that feeling and realize you don't like it, and then realize that you have every power and every ability to pull yourself out with your self-talk. And what I mean by that is, instead of saying girls don't like me, I switch it and say, if a girl doesn't like me for who I am and the body that I am, that's not the type of girl I want to be around anyway. That this body is an authentic filter, and it filters out the people that I don't want around me. You know how empowering that is for me? Like, that totally shifted my whole perspective on girls. Like, I don't get offended or upset if a girl don't want to, like, get love on me, because I'm like, well, that's not the type of girl I want to be with. Like, I don't like your frequency. Like, I'm good. You know?
Exactly. Because you will.
Exactly.
You'll discontinue investing your most precious commodity,
energy,
which is your time
and
your
my energy and my love.
You'll discontinue that pursuit or that investment.
Thanks for helping me. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so that was super empowering for me, and I wanted to share that because it's relatable for guys and girls. And so realize the state you're sitting in, realize what you're going through, and realize all these thoughts, you have to switch them to positive affirmations and pull yourself out of that, because those thoughts are not your thoughts. Just think of your mind. There's millions of thoughts that aren't ours, and just think of your mind, and there's a conveyor belt, and there's all these thoughts going, and you're discussing, and all this. It's your job, and you have the power to, whether you want to pull that thought and make it yours, or just throw it away and let it keep going. Let it keep going.
A powerful lesson that I learned about 6 months ago, and really you just reminded me of it, so I want to share it with our listeners and our viewers here, is everything that occurs in life is neutral. It's the filter in which we interpret it that dictates if it's positive or negative.
Absolutely.
We're
in plain energy.
Yeah, the occurrence of you feeling the rejection from the girl that you were speaking to in Miami on your birthday, your interpretation of that, once you sat in your shit for a minute, the interpretation of you were able to turn rejection into a positive by internalizing it, sitting in it, and then rejecting it and making it and in creating that as her doing you a favor. So that's a really powerful point in my life that allowed me to realize I am in complete control of my life and everything that happens in my life, because I'm in complete control of my perspective and how I'm interpreting things. And that's one thing that you really literally just explained to me, and I just learned this 6 months ago. I'm 35 years old. I'll be 36 in a couple months, but it took me this long to be able to realize this, and you're teaching other people this at 22 years old. And it's no question that nobody's wondering how or why you've been able to do all these things. It's the powerful way that you show up in your mindset that has allowed you to continually get over the daily adversities mentally and physically, that has made you such a smashing success in the 22 years that you've been on this planet. Before we go, dude, this has been probably the coolest 2 hours of my entire life.
Thank you.
So I want to give everybody an opportunity to leave Nick, and I'm encouraging everybody to go in the comment section, leave a review for Nick, and let us know what portion of this 2 hours that you invested into listening to his story and his triumphs most impacted you, leave a comment, because I want to print these out and I want to make a really cool book to give as a gift to Nick. And congratulations for his book coming out. And before we go, tell us about your book. Tell us where we can get it, and tell our friends here where they can follow you on social media.
Yeah, so Monday we're doing the big push.
Monday, which is what, October 8th?
Yeah,
October
I don't even know
8th.
what date
Yeah.
Just go with the flow. So Monday we're doing the big push, and you can find it on Amazon. And so it'll be up on Monday, and it's called Victim to Victor. If you type in Victim to Victor Nick, it'll pop up. Victim to Victor. Ed did the forward for me, so I'm super grateful for that. I got a lot of cool forwards in there. And so you can find that on Amazon. And then my Instagram is Nick Santonastasso. It's the Nick with the really long last name.
Yeah, you find them all over my social media. I'll put it in the show notes
And
of the show on YouTube and on iTunes.
yeah, and then my website is just book, B-O-O-K, nicksanto.com. Got to make it easy for people because my last name's Wild, and so that you can find me there. That's where you can, get in contact with my team about bookings or anything, and everything else that I got going on. Instagram is my main choice of platform. It's my favorite one, and like I said, moving forward, if there's anything I could do for you, like I don't ever want you to hesitate to reach out. Just reach out to me. Like I said, even if you're having that low time, call me or just be like, Nick, can I talk?
And our listeners know, depression is something that has massively impacted me, and I appreciate that.
You got it, bro. Anything I can do. We're on the same team.
I feel the same way, man. I gained a brother today, man. I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, bro.
Before we go, we're sitting in this hot room. We turned the air conditioner off in Columbus, Ohio. Before we go, what does Nick want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered, like I said, people call me a motivational speaker, inspirational speaker. I'm a shifter of perspectives. That's what you label me as. I'm a shifter of perspectives. I'm here to make people look at the world differently, and I'm just here I want to empower people, because we're disabled by limiting beliefs, and we all have limiting beliefs, and I just want to show people, when you're born, you have everything inside of you to do whatever you want to do, regardless of what hand life has dealt you with. You have all the ability into you. You have to believe in you. You have to believe in your vision. And, like I said, I just want to make a massive footprint in this world and show people, life is all perspective. It's all about the lens you look at life. Every single event, like Muhammad Ali said, he said, no, sorry, not Muhammad Ali. We were talking about boxing earlier. Talking about Nelson Mandela. He said, I don't lose. I only win or I learn. And that's super important for people to realize that every situation in the future, every situation now, every situation in the past, whether you think it was bad, there's always one good piece of information to pull out of every situation, and you take that L and you turn it into a positive. So everything in life, you never lose, you only learn and win.
Victim to Victor. This guy right here is a freaking
I was going to buy that place, right here. Whoop-ah!
All right, guys, dude, thank you so much for
appreciate
joining us, man. Thank you, Nick. Thank you so much. I can't say enough great things about you, man, but I'm just so excited to carry this journey on and honestly just maximize what you're bringing into this world. And that was powerful. That's something that I'm going to remember for a long time. You're a shifter of perspective. You transcend motivational and inspirational speaking. You're right, man. You are a shifter of perspective.
I like that
man.
label.
And dude,
I
love it. I wish I thought of it, but you know what, man? I'm going to follow in your footsteps, man. And everybody watching, everybody listening, we're so fortunate and we're so thankful. And the last thing I want to say is I want to acknowledge your parents again.
Yeah.
Dude, they did an incredible job raising you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mom and Dad,
we love you.
We love you, and I can't wait to meet you guys. Jersey Pride, Jersey's finest, man. I love you guys, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Down the field, Hollywood!
Let me think about that one.
77 yards! Whoa! Who is this kid?
Mister